Got it. Okay, we're going to be going live in a second here. Go back to Zoom. First, I got to just make sure it's muted on PooTube. Got it. Call it PooTube. Here we go.
It's like Family Guy. What? Where? What? PooTube?
PooTube. Oh wait. Okay, let's see. Okay. Let's back down. All the things. Get me camera going. There we are. All right. Right. Hydrogen activated. Here we go. Yemingju set. Roger that 4-5 and countdown 3, 2, 1 and broadcast. Welcome to Release Sundays live. Excuse me. We've had a few weeks where we haven't done any release lives because I've had patients and apprentices in town, and we've had some technical difficulties. Ultimately, I should be coming in clear and renewed because we have some epic new broadcasting equipment. Oh, hold on one second. Let me just mute this. Where's that mute button? Doodly-doo. All right, hang on a sec. I don't see the mute anywhere. Okay, also, there we go. I guess I'll just turn it down this way. There we go. That way I can see everybody in the chat room. All right. Yes, got a new tech set up, divinely ordained, because you got to work within the technology to reach humanity at this point. Seems to be the thing. And let's see, where's our comments? Get our comments going. Boom. Boom. Yes. So a glorious Sunday it is. Nice to see you all on the broadcast. Have you see me? Good to be seen. And an honorable and activated broadcast we have today. You'll see me just kind of huffing nanohydrogen, which I'm sure we'll touch base on at some point. Breathing in some light. Oh, that's good light. I swear it is. It's really good light. It's awesome to have you guys with us, and we have an awesome show with the great Alexander Anderson. We're trying to do this thing again because we had an awesome show, Alex and I, and apparently we said some naughty things, didn't we, Alex? We said some naughty. We didn't honor the YT parental guidance, the YouTube parents that are parenting our channel, and apparently we talked about some things that were naughty, so that show got banned and we got a strike on our channel from that. And so we are doing it all over again, and it's going to be an exciting broadcast because Alexander actually has some patients that he's just treated that are going to speak about the work. And we're going to get into more of the ins and outs of neuromuscular release therapy. We're going to talk about the new premiere of Release, the movie part 1 on Mr. Astrotheology, the larger platform that we created a global release from until it was taken down because we had some stuff about what's happened over the last couple of years in the film, which we took out and created a censored version, which isn't being taken down. So now finally it's going to be re-released to the world coming up June 14th-ish. And Santos Bonacci and I are going to do a podcast about it and talk about release and the film we're both in and the principles of release and strama, which we're going to get into today. And we're going to, talk more about, I've been working on part 2. It's super magical. I'm really excited. In fact, it's come to pass that, I didn't release the film actually in 4K, and I didn't realize I could because I'm just new at this editing game. And so, I'm working on the 4K version of part 1, and now part 2 will be completely in 4K, which is good because we shot the whole film in 4K. So my co-director was like, yo, man, we got to use the 4K side of this. Like it's, we shot Iceland in 4K. Just watching that alone would be phenomenal. So already we got a bunch of people into the show, which is awesome. Good to see some beautiful faces in there besides Alex. And yeah, with no further ado, Alexander, Mr. Anderson, it's awesome to have you back on the broadcast. It's been so amazing to reunite with you. Alex is going to be actually at the apprenticeship program in July coming up here in Kauai, which we're really excited about, and is going to be ambassadoring, bringing out some sacred technology that we'll probably get into and talk about a little bit today. This stuff right here, this bead right here that you can't see fully, but you know what's cool is I have one of these to give you some perspective on what this thing looks like. Take a look at that. All right, what is that? Whoa, look at this thing glow. What is that? It's pure.
Your screen is on the Release Sundays live.
It's what? My screen's what?
As far as I can see your oh, there we go. Now I can see you.
Can see it better now. So even with the light, when I put the UV on, you can see it glow. What is this thing? It's literally chi, life force. It's a form of technology. It's a sacred ancient stone that holds light. It holds chi, life force, and is a sacred and magical talisman throughout history that many powerful beings were just obsessed with, including one in particular, Genghis Khan. He was obsessed with finding the pieces of it. And so there's only 4 ambassadors, I believe, right, Alex, in America that are facilitating the legit Yeming Jew, Alex being one of those. So we're going to have that out at the program, and we're just so excited to bring him and all the shamanic magic that he wields to Kauai coming up for the July program. So we'll get into some details on that. But with no further ado, Alex, welcome to the show, and everyone else, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here, and just what an honor to be bringing these sciences, these arts, forward through to the people, so we can have these transformational experiences, regenerating us into who we are, bringing lowercase yourself into higher case yourself.
Boom. That's it. And I have some, actually, just thank you for reminding me. I have some really powerful, really, I'll call them uploads, because I feel like some of these words get just, they've been new cage psychology, diluted and unfortunately lessened in their significance. So let's just say there have been some powerful reflections, divine template reflections of this work that we're wielding, and they're very principled truths that are coming through that, Alex, as a practitioner, you're going to just, all the practitioners have been blown away of, and I'm talking to a lot of the apprentices about, and it goes back to the Christ movement and Christ consciousness, and the symbol even for Christ is the cross. And so I'm excited to dive into those, because it gives a greater context to what we're doing, and to the simplicity yet the complexity of our divine technology, and how easy it is, how simple but intricate it is to activate and release, and where those principles are reflected through the divine alchemists, and to me, Christ being the ultimate Jedi, who was bringing that awareness to the people, and it still has carried, despite the attacks, has carried through to this day to the masses. So excited to get into it. Where shall we begin is the first and foremost. I guess let's welcome brother here who's on with us, and I'm glad you popped in. Is there anything you want to drop in about first and foremost? I see you popped on the broadcast. Do you have any questions or anything, either of you brothers? Because I see you're both here. Yeah, feel free to shoot. You got Alex and I here. This is a Q&A for practitioners. Either you can unmic your microphones first, and yeah, shoot.
I don't have any questions right now, but I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, if not, cool. We'll start diving into some stuff. Anything for you, brother?
Something you might want to know, Micah. Brother who just unmuted, his name is Jesse Gunn, and this guy is a Jedi and just absolutely brilliant. Both of these guys are part of Yemingju fam and have found so much magic with these crystals and rejuvenation of who and what they are. And then brother Dante here is epic. I mean, both these guys are legit.
Yeah.
Dante is up in Philadelphia, and Jesse is one of my dear homies back in Utah, Salt Lake.
Amazing. Well, on the Yaming Jew tip, I'd love to share with you guys. I was talking to Alex about this. I was guided to get copper wire, like the thicker stuff, and I ran it through this bead, and it's run through. These are angelite beads, which this stone is known to remove pain when you rub it on the skin and the muscles. And so basically, I got this download to take this bead and run it along this copper wire. And I don't know if anyone's familiar with, there's different technologies that stem back to the 1900s. Some of these Rife technologies, the violet ray technologies. And so when you take copper and you make a complete circle, but you don't connect it, it actually creates an antenna that starts channeling in the frequencies from the universe. And they've tested this scientifically. So, the clasp at the end of this is not copper. So it's keeping the form that we're talking about. And so it's channeling those energies in. And then the Yaming Jew is running on the copper wire as a conduit around my neck. And I felt a heightened intensity to the energy, the chi from the actual Yaming Jew by running copper this way. And I got this whole template of starting to use this stone and make devices for my practitioners that have the copper wire conduit system. And I'm just beginning. This is just kind of the first one, but I've been testing it over this last week, and it's been profound. Yesterday was a really good example. I got to take the handgun training course that they have here on Kauai. That they only do 3 or 4 of them a year, and basically was shooting explosive devices in my hands for about 5 hours, which is actually very intense on your hands and your arms to be, because that's what a gun is. It's a handheld explosive device that has a lot of kick, and you have to hold it, and it takes a lot of physical force. And I got to shoot over 30 of these tools, and then had to go do a core series on a practitioner who is definitely a bigger man and over 200 pounds. So it was quite a contrasting day to be firing explosive tool firearms for half the day, and then go into the healing context and be digging the trauma and suffering out of a very large man, and which would have normally just probably wiped me out. And I was able to navigate through it, just fueled with so much energy. And I think that's where Yaming Jew has really impressed me, is the fact that it's not just a talisman. It's a device. It's a energy chi device. So it carries a different value, which is why it does cost what it costs. And when you really get the technology behind it, then it is like purchasing like this nanohydrogen technology is amazing. This is a lifelong device that I have, inhaling hydrogen from the sun. It's basically liquid light, and it's a natural antioxidant. It has been transforming my health, and it's worth that investment. So to me, this stuff is no different as a technology. It just also looks beautiful as you wear it. So it's kind of a, double wham bam, it's
absolutely brilliant. As we get into these things, we're either doing healthcare and paying towards things, investing in ourselves, which is bringing about a better life, renewment in our body so we can experience the ecstasy of all that is, or we're going to be paying towards a vampiric hospitalization system, which does sick care, not health care, and our health, wealth, happiness, and luck.
Yes, you're right.
That there is a
that was
loss
just
of
a crowd. That was a crowd cheering for you in your answer. So I didn't mean the crowd was interrupting you, but they were cheering. They were cheering for you, Alex. Oh my God, this new system has these funky, cool sound effects. So I'm probably going to be playing with them through the day because we're having fun. We have to have fun. We have to have fun and be playful with a lot of the information we go through, especially as we get into, understanding the strama and folks, some really powerful pieces that have come in about the concept of being reborn from your sins, and rebirth from sins and trauma, and And in the Christian religion, and I've been working on a lot of Christians lately, and that's been fascinating for me because the praying and the Bible reading and the going to church hasn't fully been cutting it to get rid of the sins. And the dipping in the water hasn't fully been cutting it because there's something missing and they're feeling it. And this is where I went into some deep dives with them about this. And by the way, I consider, I don't use labels. I am a follower of Christ, and I guess you could refer to me as Christian. But you know what I love about Christians is I can talk about Christ and I don't have to explain a lot or deprogram a lot, sometimes a little bit, but there's a beautiful context for Christ there that we can talk about, and I can enjoy talking about Christ, and they love it, and it's all great. We can get into Christ and talk about it. And it's a beautiful thing because you know what? It's reflective of the fact that I don't feel comfortable talking about Christ and Christ consciousness with a lot of people. And that's of concern to me. Either they think it's silly or it fits into this indoctrinated category that I feel like pop culture has really put Christians into, to be very, nerdy and not cool, or very conservative and restricted. And like, it's not cool to love Christ, even though this is like one of the most famous beings in existence. I would say he's in the Quran. There are chapters in the Quran about Christ. There's chapters in the Torah about Christ. Tell me any other book where there's chapters in the Bhagavad Gita about Christ. There's records in India of Christ coming and training in the yogic sciences. And here's my thing is that, the first thing I like to do is help de-indoctrinate them that the Hindu religion is about false gods and Luciferianism, because that's what a lot of them think in the New Age psychology. And let me clarify why that's not the case to the pagan gods and all the New Age gods and the Isises and all these things that everyone worships is like literally false gods, which, by the way, when you worship false gods, for me as a father, that's like my kids coming up to me and saying, "Hey, Dad, you wiped our butts for the last so many years and took care of us, but we're going to say this other guy over here is our dad now. Okay, so you're not our dad. This is our dad over here. This guy. This is Jimmy. Jimmy's our dad now. Okay, so here's our dad, Jimmy. You're not our dad." And okay, so here's the difference with Hindu culture. Hindu culture, all of these gods, as they put it, are expressions of one true God. So a good way I relate it to Hindu people is, or to Christians is, they're like angels. Here's a good way. They're like angels. All the different angels that are like the messengers and children. That is how truly in the Hindu religion, these gods are expressions of one true God. That's the difference. False gods identify individually. There is no one God they're expressions of. They are individualized, and also they usually are holding masculine or feminine polarities, and they're usually wrathful and, all the things that a true God would not fully embody, because you're supposed to transcend all that stuff. These are all human qualities. And so although the Hindu gods have expressions in femininity and masculinity, they are still expressions of one God. And that actually helps them a lot when I explain that they're like angels, but at the same time, in the religion, they always worship this higher God, Brahma, that is the collective consciousness that expresses through his children, his celestial children, which is the exact same thing as angels. And that is a big difference. And so the other aspect is, through the Hindu religion, outside of worshiping one true God and the expression angels of, they also have these breath techniques and physical exercises to prepare and heal and cleanse the template of their sins. And in Christianity, they don't really have that. We don't really have breath techniques and stretches and things to open the body. We don't have healing systems to release the sins, the anger, the sadness, the trauma. And that's where there's a beautiful connection to the Christian community coming in to see we need stuff like this. In fact, you want to really be born again. It's not from dipping yourself in the water externally. It's actually from going into this water vessel that's made of like 90% water, that's holding the sins, it's holding the anger, it's holding being picked on when you're 6 years old, it's holding the abuse from your parents, if that was the case. It's holding the sexual abuse or the trauma. It's holding it in the water vessel. And to really go in and be reborn, it's not about dipping yourself in the water. Don't you see that's too easy? Don't you see our God, the Father, the Creator, Well, I can tell you as a parent, you know what I really appreciate from my kids? I appreciate that if they got a bunch of dog poop on their shoes, that they didn't try to just dip their shoes in water or toss them away or say, I want some new shoes. That they actually went through and cleaned those shoes off and went in and scrubbed out all the little areas where the stuff collected, and they'd have a whole other appreciation for those shoes and not getting them dirty again. And this is your shoes. This is your magical sneaker pump, double Vapor Maxes right here. And it's magical. And the divine started you off clean with it. And you got some poo-poo on your shoes through life. And you know what? That's okay. It's not your fault that this trauma came in. It's not your fault we're in a world full of hyper-adrenalized fear that's conditioned. Don't talk to strangers. These are your private parts, the shame, the oppression, all the things we've been bombarded with. This isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility to heal and free yourself of it, because no one else is going to do it for you. And so we've been looking at this deeper, real rebirthing comes from you diving in and facing your sins and going through releasing them. Sin just means miss the mark, your traumas. And that takes more effort. It takes more effort. It takes more action and takes more involvement and engagement. And that rebirthing, the ritual of dipping in the water, maybe do that after. Maybe release your sins, release your traumas, face all your stuff, liberate yourself from it, and then do that external baptism in the water. I guarantee you it will be so much more significant. And that's why a lot of people that are Christian and reborn, they're coming to me and they're saying, I'm still having all this mental, these toxic thoughts and these different things. And like, I pray every day and it's not working. And that's because their water vessel is still contaminated with the trauma, we could refer to it as the sins we've collected. And the true redemption and atonement is you being responsible and facing all that stuff and getting out. Here's where we're going to have a little aha moment. The primary movement that Alex and I do to apply Nmrt, and Alex, you ready for this?
Let's go.
Is a cross. We go up and down and side to side, literally the way we navigate releasing your tissue and how your tissue is structured is cross lateral. It is a freaking cross in its emblem and shape, friends. Literally the way we navigate releasing the trauma from the body is to go up and down and side to side. Look at it. It's literally the shape we are navigating your tissue is the very cross that Christ embodies, the symbol. And so it's been very profound as we've gone through this with some very awesome and amazing open-minded Christian people that are like, yo, we got to get this into the Christian communities because also touch in general is very repressed and suppressed in the Christian community. And you know what? This is what kind of draws people to be turned off from it, that are more tactile and sensual and touch oriented maybe. And this is what gets them into the new cage psychologies of other esoteric practices, and where they're kind of like, oh, because their reference is so shut down. And the thing is that touch in America, especially in the Western world, is either like very uncomfortable familial kind of touch, or sexual, or nothing at all. And the concept of medicine touch, as one of my German patients in Germany when we were touring came in, he said, referred to it as medicine touch. And it's basically touch with the intent to release your body. It's not even about comfort. In fact, it's not going to be comforting. Sometimes we're facing inflammation stuff and it's intense, and it's not going to be intimate in terms of sexuality, which is where most touch unfortunately gets associated for people, which is why people are uncomfortable to touch, because we associate intimacy and touch with sexuality, which is so sad. It limits you from an entire world of contact. And when you understand that this vessel and all of its brilliant technology is designed to be touched. It literally is what engages the inner physician that we talk about and release. It's what activates your system to run a diagnostic and find stuff that's wrong with you. Oh, cancer cells here, whatever it is. Okay, spiked proteins from something else that it's collecting in this different areas. What engages that is touch. So the world has not been taught that a fundamental element of our health and wellness is necessary, just like brushing our teeth. And we got way more layers in the tissue in this thing Now, everyone got the memo that if you don't brush your teeth, you're going to get a funky mouth. It doesn't matter if you get the deepest dental cleaning after a couple days, you're eating food, you get a collective film, that the bacteria, the tartar turns to plaque, you get cavities. Well, this doesn't it make sense? This body has an accumulation rate the same, and that you need to clean it too. And the way we clean it is through touch. And the way we touch ourselves to unlock it is in a cross shape. Do you think there's a coincidence to that? I mean, whoa. So it's a beautiful thing. There's big pieces coming in around these divine templates. And I really believe that Christ actually had a practice of, he learned, because it's very simple. Like even in primitive times where people, let's say, they didn't have all the science and everything, he could have figured out to unlock the tissue going in a cross pattern and been sharing it with people, and it was helping them heal. So I feel like that was the symbol that eventually carried out. It's because it's literally reflected through how we do this work that helps you unlock this trauma, and it releases you.
Speaking of reflective, it's interesting that Nietzsche said there's only one Christian, only one, and they crucified him. And so then the next piece of this is the cross. That cross, as we generally see it, are followers of the people who crucified him. So the reflection of the cross is the anchor. And that is truer to the T of what actually provides the release, is flipping the cross so it is down and then here, and then you get at the belly button. And then going back to Taoist and traditional Chinese work, you have the belly, the breath and the fire, the where your chi, the mudlahara, where all that sits. So anchoring again from the belly, from the breath, from the body is more what I find really, really has the deeper application.
It makes so much sense. In fact, I see the anchor side being that, like our technique, anchor, manipulate, release, the Nmrt technique. We're anchoring into tissue and anchoring into the sediment. If you're a water vessel, and you're stagnant, you're not a river, you're not a stream, you're a pond. And ponds become stagnant and sediment settles to a pond. How do we get to the stagnant energy, the stagnation at the base of a pond? You got to stir it up. Now, we had a pond at my house in Michigan. We made an artificial pond, and my dad did a great job because there was fish and built a whole ecosystem. But what started happening was there was an algae layer that started to grow. This one type of algae looked like little tiny lily pads, and actually very beautiful if you look tiny at them. But what happened was they would spread everywhere. And if we didn't run a fountain in the center of the pond to move the water, the algae would grow over the entire top of the pond and start killing everything underneath it because it was blocking the light out. So all the fish would suffocate, all the vegetation underneath in the pond would suffocate, the frogs, everything would die from this one algae growing over the top of the pond. And that's what happens both in the stroma. Excuse me, I inhaled some spit. Don't do that. That's crazy. It almost like makes you mini drowned when you do it. I just averted it and like somehow moved it to the left, but it was about to go back. So this algae layer, as it grows and collects, what happens is, obviously it's just trying to propagate and live. And this is reflective of both the stroma, the neurochemical memory from everything you feel every day is released from neuropeptides from your brain that make you feel happy, that make you feel sad. And everything that you physically do is also accumulated in what we call acetylcholine being the primary chemical for movement and animating your body. So these are the two chemicals that to engage in the simulation as a live action role play character, you are doing all the time, you are using all the time, and is accumulating all the time. And so on top of that, you have this microfascial webbing, which, by the way, the cross movement and palpating yourself also breaks up the myofascial webbing that collects above the tissue. So it's kind of the algae layer on the surface. And when we don't do this every day, that myofascial webbing starts creating a densified network layer that starts suffocating the layers of tissue underneath. And this is where, there's some cool TED Talks. Somebody was talking about myofascial webbing, and they had like a giant spandex suit on that looked like the myofascial webbing of the body. And they gripped onto like the side of the fabric like this. And then they tried to lift their arm up. And you can even see when I do this, this is like a bunch of myofascial webbing. When I lift, see, it's pulling my arm. I can't go up as high as doing this. And that's what happens with the webbing is it densifies in areas. It starts making your body tighter, and it starts actually limiting your range of movement on top of the suffocation of the deeper layers of tissue, which are blocking ultimately blood flow and oxygen and pure the water vessel to remain pure. So then that sediments in the tissue, along with things like iron oxide. Iron oxide, if everyone isn't familiar, is dumped in the air. It's in those water pipes. We've shown on Matrix Body Mechanics Live, by the way, which is our show on Mondays, where it's more the warrior show we have to do on Rumble because, well, it's not Y2 parental guidance friendly for our channel here, and it threatens our channel, which we've built for everyone to be checking out and be with us on Sundays for our kind of healing show. So we have to go to Rumble on that one. But we've showed pictures of these pipes, these city pipes. This is where your water's coming from. It's what you're showering in. Even if you use filters to drink from, these water pipes, and you should have seen these, they're just rusted and caked full of all this lye and chloride and rust, iron oxide. And so all this stuff is getting bombarded in our system, and it's accumulating. And so iron oxide sediments in your muscles. It's why if you push into your muscle, it'll, even if you have it's not super compressed, you'll hit a deeper layer where it's hard. And that's what iron oxide does. And it's not, by the way, it's not iron in a good way. It's actually a negative form of iron that sediments in the muscle. And it's because we're not drinking clean enough water, and you are a filter. Your body is like a super technology filter. So imagine that this hydrogen machine has its own form of a filter. It's not even a quarter of the technology of your human filter, that when you're drinking and eating things, it doesn't just go in one end and come out the other. It actually dumps off into the tissue. And that's why when we talk about uropathy and urine therapy, your urine is the purest byproduct of the human filter that you're filtering. So that's why it's sterile.
It's actually second to your tears.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting. Your gypsy tears. Yeah. Wow.
Like a gypsy for me, maybe, but someone else, it might be something else.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's true, because the things that your body produces are very pure. And again, this is part of the body shame and indoctrination that we're gross. Everyone's gross, and that's not at all the case. It's not scientifically the case, and none of it. But we're indoctrinated to think so. I'm gross. My fluids are gross. That's actually not the case. The things you produce are magical because your technology is magical. But if you don't know that, and you just think you're look at the term even in anatomy, gross anatomy. And they spell it the same, we're taught that we're gross. We're taught that we're, this dirty evolution of a monkey, basically, and science has really made a pull on us, because the alternative to science, and that everything is just some random, spontaneous, scientific, chaotic dawning of coincidence and chance, and big bang of chance for existence. The alternative is a father figure in the sky that is, in the old religions, fairly, wrathful and will punish you if you don't do these things. So it's like, look at the alternative of why scientism made its move, is because the alternative was very falsely taught, indoctrinated forms of religion. And especially even in the Catholic Church and even in Christianity, this patriarchal father figure that's going to punish you if you don't, and so because most people, that wasn't truth, so they looked for something that could be truth, and unfortunately, the end result is a very nihilistic perspective for humanity, to think nothing really matters the way that you think. There isn't this spiritual simulation and system. Whoa, Ye Ming Ju coming through. Those are some beautiful pieces. Amen. Praise Jesus. Look at that. Got some purple. Is that gold or green? I can't tell.
Who? Oh, we got Don.
It's green. It's green.
It's green. Okay, I thought so, because sometimes the gold, I've noticed, and Alex sent me pictures, looks almost kind of green when I noticed it on film. Right, Alex?
The camera cannot capture quite yet, unless it's super high grade, the golden glow. It blows past the camera's ability to capture it, and so the gold does have a greenish hue. And one of the interesting things talked about is, based upon our current position in time and space right now, there's more golden light coming through our solar system, and that is what's happening, which actually took the coral piece which glowed a golden green, but now it glows straight gold.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
that's and to add to that, the specific, supposed scientific name is plasmic light. We are moving into a field of plasmic light, and that plasmic light field. Oh, somebody's audio is kicking. Just mute that for now until you are speaking, and thank you. But the plasmic light is interesting because it can't be refracted and it can't be reflected. It can't be distorted. We've been in a time in the Kali Yuga where light can be refracted, reflected, and we can be deceived. But plasmic light it passes through. That's why the lies and the deception is being exposed in this time of disclosure, because the light will not allow the darkness to imitate and infiltrate anymore. There's no hiding, there's no refracting or reflecting light in the experience now, and that's forcing everybody to become more authentic or be burned away. It's kind of like if you're holding on to something that starts heating up, you either have to increase in the heat and light, or you have to let that thing go. And so everyone is being put through this period. And actually, idealistically, that's why I've been being shown more and more that this Christed unlocking through the cross of healing thyself and unlocking your body through these movements of the cross, which is cool because yes, there's a lot of techniques to Nmrt, Alex, and I will tell you there's a principal Nmrt technique. There's different hand tools you can use. There's different techniques, but at its simplest core, you could just press into your body and go up and down, side to side, making this movement all over your whole body. You're already laying down when you're trying to go to sleep, right? You're already trying to get out of your body and relax. You're already trying to settle from the mental monkey mind and the hyperadrenalization of the day and the bombardments of fear that we have. And you're trying already to get into this state of peace and relaxation and really parasympathetic nervous system, theta and delta sleep, which is where your body's going to do the most regeneration, the most transformation of bigger tasks, healing the liver, healing the kidneys, healing the organs. And so why not initiate this cross movement, healing thyself, and then going into your prayers, going into your, I pray every night. But here's another thing. I talk to Christians about a lot of this stuff because it needs to be talked about. No one's talking about it. Guess what? I've learned so much about my father and how to honor him through being a father. Makes sense, okay? Because I got kids. And you know what I love? I love when my kids come to me, and I love when they honor me and they love me up and stuff. And I don't mind when they ask for things. I don't. It's fine, especially if they're relevant things. But you know what I love the most? I love when my kids come and they just want to talk to me. They just want to connect with me. So prayer is powerful, but you're also still thinking, and maybe you're directing and you're sending prayers places. You should try just communicating with God, just talking to your father like he's just listening, and there's an inner dialogue running, because there is, whether you're aware of it or not. It's just running, and you could just, it's like a friend inside your head. Remember that song, "You Got a Friend in Me"? You got a friend in, what was that guy's name? Right? So Spirit's just listening all the time.
It's another Randy.
It's another Randy. Inside joke, guys. See, because I was already tested this morning by and I said this before, and I don't want to all the Randys out there, I'm just gonna, I've met a lot of Randys that are well, we'll just say they're toxic expressions of the old paradigm masculine. Because listen, this is another thing we're going to get into today. There are toxic masculine, old paradigm masculinity, and there's toxic old paradigm feminine qualities that have been unfortunately infected into us, especially the millennial and Gen Y generations. And what are the toxic masculine and toxic feminine qualities? Well, let's come up with just a symbol for what they are. We'll say it's the dickish prince and the bratty princess. Okay. Now, the dickish prince is insecure. He is still competitive and overly, falsely confident because he's insecure. He's competitive, he's goal and victory driven. He's focused on winning more than maybe integrity and the art of enjoying competition and enjoying, let's say, the match. He's kind of a dick. He's the dickish prince. What's the bratty princess? The bratty princess is overly emotional, manipulative, insecure. Ultimately, insecurity is the core of it. It can be manipulative, and unfortunately, the women of our world have been imprinted with the dickish prince, old paradigm, toxic masculine, and the men have been imprinted with the bratty princess, toxic feminization. Now, what is the noble king and the noble queen? The noble king is grounded. He's patient. He's compassionate. He has feeling, but he has clarity of judgment, and he's able to lead because his feelings don't rule him. Because you can't be in your feelings and be clear of judgment to be the true masculine to lead. And the noble queen is powerful and grounded and present. She's embodied. She's secure and can surrender to be led because she trusts in the masculine, and the masculine is worthy of leading her. See, we watch these things reflected in shows like Game of Thrones and these different shows because we're drawn to that because we see a way that we've lost. You see, because I'm going to give you a scene from one of these. The king's ready to go to war with another kingdom, and the queen comes up and she's like, my king, you know, they have more men, their men are more rested, and you know, I fear for our people and for our soldiers. And the king might be like, you know what, my queen, you're right. I must think about this. But if he's not, and he's like, my queen, we must do this. We must go to war. Then she's like, I will pray for our soldiers, my king, and be by your side and trust me. She doesn't say this. Oh my, are you serious? Are you kidding me? You know what? This is what you always do. I try to tell you what, you know, this, and then you don't listen to me and blah, 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 blah. See, because none of us would watch one of those shows because a lot of us are living that static inversion of polarity in our relationships. It's not working. See, the noble king and noble queen, they rule a kingdom. They are responsible for the people of a kingdom and its benefit and welfare. And they couldn't do that if they were in this static, compromised polarity with each other. And that's the thing, is you lose polarity in a relationship if the feminine goes into these toxic masculine qualities and the masculine goes into these toxic feminine qualities, because polarity is about magnetism, and you can't have two masculine vessels in a relationship. They'll push each other away. And just like you can't have two feminine polarities, they'll neutralize each other. And so a lot of this we've lost it through a lot of socially engineered psyops, and feminism was a really big one. It started with establishing the rights for the men and women against the patriarchy, but then it distorted into this other version of that the feminine was given the opportunity to embrace all the toxic old paradigm masculine qualities that they have been tormented by for centuries, but now they have the thumbs up that you have the right to embody these because it worked out so well for the guys, right? And the men went into the spectrum of this feminine, over emotional, and part of that, again, so much of this has been put into our infrastructure over intergenerationally. Who have the men been raised by for generations? Friends, by the women of the feminist movement, because the men were moved from the workplace. The state supported the women to go off on their own, remove the father from the family. They could get more money to do that. But then you know what happens? The feminine has to become both the feminine and the masculine. I've seen it in too many times. I've seen it I have I'm a single father of 4 kids that has gone through this process. So I'm not speaking to you on theory or hypothetical, whatever. I'm speaking to you as somebody that is a part of what has happened. And I'm giving you my own personal reflections of this and the aftermath of the breaking of the family, which is the ultimate technology of strength and empowerment to rule, to build things, to build companies, to build kingdoms together. And it's a beautiful thing that maintains polarity, and it's worked for thousands of years. Now, like I said, I'm not going to say that the toxic masculine hasn't misled or abused the leading. And so the feminine has felt, I can't trust your lead. You can see why it's all played out this way. But ultimately, if the feminine doesn't break the relationship of wanting to control things, she can never be led. And if the masculine doesn't fully embody being a devoted, responsible leader, that makes clear judgments, then the feminine will never trust you to lead. And we've gotten in this kind of mixed up process. And you know what, bringing it back to this trauma, it's not just in the head, it's in the body. A lot of this trauma, it's in the body. It's in the body from the men being more emasculated from the authoritarian female figures in their lives through their childhood. They haven't even cultivated what it is to be the masculine. So I'm so happy with a lot of the programs that are coming forward of men and women that are building programs identifying this. And I see Anne-Marie's on the call, and she, we talk about this all the time. We both have had experiences of this in our family dynamics, and now as single parents, one-on-one parents that are doing this and having to hold both spaces. And I'm having to be the mama and the dad. I get a Mother's Day card for my kids sometimes. It's a beautiful compliment because I'm holding down
a Mother's Day text from me.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's a compliment, and at the same time it's taxing because it feels unnatural for me to not just be able to focus on building path and purpose and having to devote more into the presence and holding that mother space in the family and making dinners every night and embodying this. And so there have been beautiful elements of, and by the way, I want to acknowledge there are beautiful sisters that have maintained and held what it is to be feminine, because now, and especially there are men that are learning once again or are rising to be the masculine. And I commend you all, because it's one of the most rebellious things you can do, like punk rock style in this day and age, to embody what it is to be the masculine and embody what it is to be the feminine, the true qualities of what it is to be the noble king and the noble queen. Because unfortunately, the core as well with the toxic masculine and toxic feminine is narcissism. And the core of narcissism is Luciferianism, because God is selfless. So what's the opposite of God? To be selfish. And narcissism is about being centered in self and selfishness. And selfishness is the opposition to what God is for all of us, which is selflessly the creator, and allowing each one of us to be in our free will and make our messes and step in the dog poo-poo, as we've talked about, and get our shoes dirty and have the opportunity to clean them off if we choose, and not saying, oh, don't do that. Oh, don't jump off that cliff. And part of you might be like, oh my gosh, thanks for telling me that, God. Gosh, I was about to jump off that cliff. Wait a second. It's not really free here, is it? You kind of helped me out. So I can tell you with my kids, it's tough when I see them wanting to fall or messing with something where I can just feel, oh, you're about to get jacked right now. You are about to spill it. Gosh, I want to try to stop. Oh, I think I pressed a button and crickets were playing. But to feel that aspect of, oh, I want to do something, but I have to allow them to have their experience here and learn on their own. And so how powerful for the divine, what a complex aspect of omnipresence to gift us this life and then support us truly through our free will to make messes, to miss the mark, to sin, so to speak. And then unfortunately, because none of us were given the divine awareness of how this tech works, that we can clean it off as we go. So we don't have to carry those forward with us. Now we're all kind of just in an abominated state of deviating from our divinity, because we're all held, we're all collected full of this trauma. And now it's even harder because there's so much of it in there. It doesn't matter what self-help stuff you do, what programs you do, what ayahuasca journeys you do, you come back to the stagnant waters of who you've been, because nobody told you there's something you could do to flush those waters. Although it's talked about in prophecy that as we move into times of great transformation, and that just like any education system, you got some room to screw around, smoke weed in the parking lot, whatever. But when it comes towards the end of graduation, there's big tests that you have to do. It's not, everyone doesn't just graduate, because what would be the point of going to school if you just smoke weed in the parking lot, not go to class, not learn anything, and then you just get to graduate? That's not how it works. You have to bring it all together. And there's some really powerful tests that you have to show up for and ideally be prepared for. And I think it's one of the greatest deceptions for humanity that nobody's really getting that. We are moving into the graduation time. whether you want to call it the Great Tribulation, whatever. It's been depicted through prophecies. And by the way, if you haven't checked out New Earth, please do so. This woman has spent over 7 years profiling prophecies for hundreds of years in every culture, and they all kind of line up. They've actually built a timeline for these. Let's see here. I'm going to show you this timeline. Everyone can see what I'm doing right here. So let's go to here. This is actually the slides for the radio show. Just so everyone knows this, I prepare this each week for a 2-hour show. Look at all this. And I just kind of improv make up my monologue as I direct everyone through all this stuff. Let's take a look. So here's the timeline in ancient prophecy that has been collected through hundreds of different prophecies. And you can see now where she says we are here now over here, that this was from 7 years ago. So do the math. 3.5 years of pre-tribulation. Okay, now look at all the things that are going on there. Now, none of this is 100% set. Okay, so this was August. Oh, actually, her chart was August 2021 when this was. Okay, so let's take a look. We got these things. We can't really say these words. We're on the brink of this thing right here. Okay, this has actually been going on for a while. Oh, this thing right here, droughts and famine. Yep, that's been going on. Earthquakes everywhere. That's been happening. Plague stuff. Yep. Aliens helping men stuff. Well, we've had lots of the disclosure stuff coming from the government here. This thing, we know that was a marker that took place, right? When our last president was in, this thing began here. This hasn't happened yet, but take a look at all of these prophecies. Were very detailed. They're not like general, and a lot of this stuff was marked through for humanity to have perspective that it's going to be temporary. Okay, all the challenges, but that we're all going to be tested through our mind, through our hearts, through our wills, to stay in the light through some of these darker tests. And that's when, as a parent, I see my kids really, I can see where they're really at. It's not when stuff's easy. It's when we have a real challenging situation and I'm trying to make dinner and my 2-year-old's just pooped her diaper and took it off and is running around the house naked with poop, and it's chaos, and the dog's whining to go outside. It's just chaos. And how my kids show up and stay calm and work together shows me where they're at. And if they're freaking out and yelling at each other and stuff, I can really see where they're at. It's not when stuff's easy and go lucky. So all of us as the children of God are going to be tested on the work we've done on ourselves and the work we've done with each other in these times coming up, which I believe we're about right here. We're closing out pre-tribulation, going into great tribulation. Now, as you go through, and by the way, I recommend you listen to some of these prophecies. They're quite profound. And again, this is a time of logical and critical thinking and also intuition. And I've had 20 years ago, I was shown a global tsunami that was going to come. What's up, little cutie pie? Yay, we got some children in the broadcasts. Hey, how are you? Yeah, that's right. In and out, hide and seek. I actually don't have my 2 littles today. I have my older munchkins, which are making breakfast right now and doing more munchkin-y older things, which is great. When your kids become 12 and 14, they actually become your own little army of beautiful people that start helping more and being involved, and they want to learn more. And it's beautiful to be able to have that reflection because you earn it as a parent. It's a powerful thing, and it's one of the most magical things I can say to everybody. It truly is like the ultimate Jedi spiritual rite of passage is to, and again, I've been talking about it, but it really helps you. At least it's helped me as a son, as a child of God, to learn more and relate more to the Father, to my parent, if you will, and what just a fraction of what that must be like. And it's helped me to feel closer to God. Being a parent, it's a magical thing. And in the true nature of humanity, we were all in a tribe. All adults were aunties and uncles, and they were all parental figures for the children. And unfortunately, in our Western, Babylonian civilization, we've gotten very disconnected. This is my family. These are my neighbors. These are some strangers that could fucking kill me. Don't talk to strangers. All these different things. Everything's gotten very separated. And it's one of the things I love about Hawaii and these sacred lands is that they haven't lost some of the primary aspects of tribe, and the beauty of what it is that You know, when practitioners or patients even come in, you know, just to my kids right off the bat, this is auntie and uncle. And sometimes it's kind of funny how it's a little disarming to adults. They're like, oh, really? I am. It almost makes them go, wow, I'm an auntie and an uncle. Like, this isn't just some kid. And that's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It puts them in check. It gets them engaged and involved. And that is, it's a magical thing, actually. I see it be very healing. And so many patients or practitioners that come out, I think sometimes they'll comment, it's one of their favorite things is they got to be aunties and uncles. And I know we have a sweet apprentice coming out who's already, Angela, see you in there, who's already like, what should I get my my nephews and nieces I'm coming out since I'm an auntie? And it was just like, yes, that's so beautiful. You know, that's just a beautiful thing to have such a you know, an initiating and inspiring apprehensive take, so it's apprehension to coming out and being part of the tribe. So I commend you for that. And we have a beautiful brother, Jedi Joseph, out here right now, who just got to have a tribal family dinner with us last night, and just is getting to, you know, is getting to feel that it's healing to be part of a tribe. We're all part of a tribe, whether they've indoctrinated us to think that we're not, we're separate. You know, you know, we do it through the universities. Oh, it's Michigan versus Wisconsin football. Ah, screw Michigan. Ah, screw Wisconsin. All these competitive rivalries even. See, look, there's a naughty wolf. There he is. Get out of here, naughty wolf. Going in and out of the studio in the office here. That the just naughty wolves, guys. You know, I should have known more when I took on a wolf. No, he's the sweetie pie, but he is a wolf, and he likes to be rebellious, and he knows he's not supposed to be. But yes, in concept of tribulation and the great times coming, this is the greatest deception to me is that people don't understand we're all about to be tested. So it's going to be more shocking for you as stuff gets more challenging. Rather than listening to the words of God through humanity for hundreds of years, you'll have more of a presence to know it's going to be more challenging. No, we can step up to this. No, it's going to be temporary. And staying connected to the light, it's always been reflected that there will be more blessings that come, more blessings to those that stay aligned with the divine and don't fall to the deception and the darkness and the mark that alters our genetics and changes us. So, you know, it's a beautiful thing to be able to have a more applicable system that you can go out from this show today and start practicing this on yourself. Even if you feel like you don't know what you're doing, you're just giving yourself a squeeze and going side to side and up and down and side to side and up and down. Alex, you have anything to add to this? As you're taking some beautiful people through these transformations right now, so they're just freshly in it as it's activating, as it's releasing, you know. I'm glad that they're tuned in, and that yeah, we'll get to hear some of their expressions maybe today, and your expression of what's it. I just love it. I love you're so in it, brother. You know what I mean? It's just been a beautiful thing with the momentum with release, and that so many people have asked for conduits to, you know, how can I get accessible? How can this be accessible to me? And it's powerful for them to see this film. Like this one woman that just came out, this beautiful Christian sister who's looking to potentially be an apprentice now and is going to be working with young girls, and has built this system around helping the children, which are being deeply indoctrinated, bombarded right now. And she was just like, it's so crazy. I saw this film, and then we ended up going to Kauai, and now I'm here with you. Like, it's like I'm in the film. And it's given such a larger context to what we're doing. So yes, share, reflect on some of your magic shamanic journeys with these magic beings that you've been helping, because you so beautifully described it before we got on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm doing right now. Down a little bit, just breathing, letting a pause come through. One of the things Micah showcased as I learned this modality and how it differs from any traditional massage therapy is in that during the work itself, we do breaks. There are pauses in between the sequences. This allows the body to acclimatize, to acclimate to the new neural upgrade, to the new program setting in and the inner physician coming online. And as this occurs, the body is able to actually set in instead of have whatever was just done evaporate. So the integration time. And you spoke of they're just in it right now. They're in this 48-hour boon window from just receiving this technology. Now remember, guys, when we speak of technology, it's so much more than your phone. I speak of phone technology and all the screens and everything. That's mineral technology. But what's plant technology? What's body technology? What is fire technology, water technology? So the techniques of whatever area you're working with are so much wider than how we normally refer to one thing. So what Nmrt helps do is give, and again, Nmrt, for those that don't know, neuromuscular release therapy or neuromuscular regeneration technique. So there are so many of these things that can come through as we look at one thing. Normally, one muscle bundle, we have our biceps brachii. They work together. But if they're bundled and stuck, the biceps can't do it. So we break it apart, and then you have all the individual pieces working together, adding to the harmony. So these 3 women, and 2 of them are going to be here and probably speaking in the next, I don't know, let's schedule it for next like 20 to 30 minutes sometime. They all received this incredible program, and each of them went through just their own dimness, their own dullness, and the own places that they'd been repressed, told to, you know, one of the things we do to women that is so cruel in older generations for younger girls is say, be seen, not heard. Well, it's cruel, and to help see them through their own reclamation of their own power and expression, to the reassertion of their natural face. I mean, you have someone else there and you see layers of dogma, of contortion, of pinching, of all these things just melt off their face. And you have someone who's known them for years look at them and go, and they're having a moment because the person is so recognizable because they've dropped the strama. And again, for those that don't know, strama, stress plus time plus trauma, how it builds and builds and builds when you don't brush your teeth, when you don't brush your face, when you don't make Alex look all pretty, man. Alex ain't pretty if you don't do that stuff. So the bulk of what these women have gone through is a reclamation experience, a liberation, a adjustment and attunement back into, through, and out. So their natural expression isn't mired by other people's dogma, so at whatever level you go in, it's to that level at which you bring yourself out of. So for furthering of this work, you're able to go deeper and explore more, because the work, i.e. the twerk, is never done. It just gets more refined and more polished. And that's part of the beauty of the Yeming Zhu, is it helps to remember. Everybody glows inside. Everybody. We are one being. Some more of the liver. Some people are more of the kidneys. Some here are more of the hyoid. Every being is a cell of the greater being. Every being glows. And the Yeming Zhu, the cool thing about this stone, is it emits light and frequencies as a scalar machine that emits light similar to our own living cells. So as you clear the dust and grime and crud off your pond, then the pond can flow in the stream and the river, and then you're a pond streaming mechanism, i.e. basically a whirlpool. So any crud that comes in through your filter, because you got a badass technological filter, gets clarified and purified. And then even if you are bumped, slammed, or abused, you go, peace. Because we're here to live in what the Vulcans, Star Trek, always bringing them back, baby. You know me. The Vulcans, pointy-eared, their main philosophy is the idic, the IDIC. It is a triangle, big circle, little circle, infinite diversity in infinite combination. So what Micah and I do, all the other practitioners, upcoming apprentices, what they're doing, and what people of Qigong lineage, of Kung Fu, Shaolin, Yogic, anybody really doing the twerk is probably not on top of a bar. But anybody really doing it, what they're doing is clarifying their nervous system and going into how they've locked their vessel, and then unwinding and coming back to the relaxed, clear Buddha mind, the yoga body, and then the Grande Spiritu breath. So you're connected with the divine as the divine, sharing divinity.
Divine truth, brother. I mean, it's so beautiful, each of us, as we go through this rebirthing, being reborn from our sacred waters, how each of us describes it in such a unique way, you know, such a beautiful way.
And that's the brilliance of my vantage versus your vantage. And then depending on our internal accuracy and the clarity of our filter is to the essence of, wow, you're lavender to my rosemary, and they're both speaking to the same plant structure, which brings back to plant itself. I mean, Micah brilliantly said.
It's and also brilliantly expressed. I mean, wow, you know, that's one of the beautiful things about Alex as a practitioner is some of us, you know, here's the thing, words, they're spells. That's why we spell them. And they're formed in sentences, which are limited, you know, sentences are limited. And so in order for us to express a depth of beauty, a depth of awakening, we have to correlate sentences and form a bunch of them and tack them together. And that is naturally, it's counterintuitive to experience. So those of us that love and experience so deeply, we've had to get it using words and sentences to express it for you. And some of us have gotten better at it than others. And I believe there's a reason for that, because
I'd like to say one more thing.
Yeah, please.
There's a brilliant video. Of course, Alan Watts is just such a genius of mine, and Micah described him really well as everybody's favorite grandfather. And he speaks well of Dante's voyage into the, it's, what's the book with Dante and Beatrice?
We're talking Dante's Inferno?
Dante's Inferno. Inferno was in the fog for me for a minute there. Thank you. So in Dante's Inferno, there's one person who cannot exclaim, again, cannot being a lie. Can't is a lie for won't. So there's a man who has difficulty in expressing his love for someone he lusts and wants to court. He goes, and then you have Dante expressing poetically about what Beatrice means, and like and then and the uwa. So is that any less valid than the person who can do it poetically? No, but just because everything is valid, not everything is equal. So what ends up occurring here with neuromuscular this work is you have an upgrade, an upload, download of every single system in your body. So you become more articulate. Again, articulation of a joint. How do we utilize words to the capacity of their meaning? So as you're listening to me speaking, you're like, this is when we can hear truth. We remember the yesness of it, the accuracy, the universality, the resonation of it. Right. So this work helps appreciate, again, an economical term, appreciate someone's inner standing to the point where they have the courage to step forth with the sword, even shaking, and confront the dragon.
Because they have a stronger, pure foundation to do so. And you can't feel strength and courage if you're full of fear, and if you're not thyself. And all of us have not been thyself. We've deviated from our divinity, and we've deviated through being homogenized, through what we think is masculine or feminine, which has been, we've already addressed, has been distorted. We've been homogenized and indoctrinated on a familial level, so from our family, because just because your parents have kids doesn't mean that all their stuff's worked out, so their stuff becomes your stuff, and then you get to break those patterns or become a byproduct of them. But we haven't had the awareness that there's even that to do a lot of the times, and so we miss this intergenerational gift where parents and children can identify and reflect on these patterns and transcend them together. That's why it's a beautiful thing. We do tandem sessions where I'll have two patients on the table, and while I'll do one sequence, and while they're integrating, then I'll do the other sequence on the other person. And so it's been really powerful to do that with couples. It's been powerful with mothers and daughters, or mothers and sons, or fathers and daughters, or fathers and sons. And it's beautiful because they get to work through these layers of what we call not self, and suffering and trauma, and witness it and hold space for each other. And I started doing it more in the clinic because we'd have, a bunch of patients and we couldn't fit them in for the day, and I would only be there for a week. And so we started to have multiple treatment rooms that were going. But what was beautiful is some of the family members would say, well, can we get treated in the same room, like side by side with two tables? And I was like, yeah, I mean, it was always such a personal experience to go through this rite of passage on your own. And then I thought, yeah, that's really powerful. Like that. Yes. Cause who can be in a more intimate space than your Ohana? And so it just seemed like, again, like it was just a holistic truth, which is, bringing it back to the words. So since we have to form words and sentences, there is a powerful thing with the word. And it's not just that the bird's the word. It's actually that the word is so much more than the bird. And so these words, if you read ancient texts, we used to speak with so much more conviction and depth of sentences. And this is also what's happened in, unfortunately, generations that have become byproducts of the technological indoctrination and the narcissism and this Luciferian inversion of humanity from our humanity. Is we say words that are empty with no actions. We don't follow through. We don't see it as my word is my bond. We just say things to fill space, or we have this diarrhea talk where we just blah, 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 blah. We don't speak with intention and meaning. Our sentences are filled with in-betweens. In fact, I saw a very creative Instagram video by a sister who is always been very deep and reflective. And she's probably 24 or 25. So there are beautiful, rebellious anomalies to the mass homogenization of our youth, sadly. And I'm going to give you a big context why. It's not your fault. I have a different brain than you because I was born before the 1980s, 1984, 1985 really is about. That's just the stretch mark. See, from there, technology got integrated in a way where the children's brains were forming with the technology integrated, which means your neural pathways actually formed different than mine. So even though I may have gotten addictive patterns to technology and also been duped by its integration, my brain was fully formed when the tech came in. Whereas your brain and my children's brains were formed around the technology stimulating dopamine and serotonin and building an invisible codependency to being stimulated more through doing this with your hand and seeing the next message and the next thing, because real life doesn't stimulate dopamine and serotonin that way. So you got to earn your serotonin and dopamine. That's what we used to do. We used to earn it by accomplishing tasks or doing chores or being out in nature and or engaging in a conversation and working through challenging parts to find a peace and a clarity with each other. But instead, now you can just swipe left from things that are uncomfortable. You can just change the format if you don't like what you see. There is a corrosion that's happened with humanity's neural pathways. Our neural kinetics are different. And guess what? If you're a young person out there, you can still change that. You can break this codependency. You can start changing your brain back to an older format. And there are variances that haven't been fully affected by it, but I find ourselves in this hollowing of our humanity from the technology, because everything's fake. I could be a complete mess and create an Instagram profile and pretend to create this whole character that I am, that's so beautiful and radiant and masterful in my fake account, and everyone follows me, but really my real life is a mess. My life is a mess. And I've just created this false facade for you on the surface, because it's not real. It's virtual. Relationships are virtual. And so same is the word. We have people that are more comfortable sending voice messages back and forth and having a conversation even on the phone and talking to each other. They're just sending voice messages or texts back and forth because it's more comfortable for them. And so one of those things was reflected by this sister, and she said, hey, like, you know how like there's this thing with saying like, and like everyone says like and integrates like so much when they're like talking about things like, you know, everything like that you're speaking. But if you like understand that like words are spells and they are speaking intentions into actualization, like when you use the word like I'm like going to like manifest this thing, you're not
Like if I
really going
knew
to
like
manifest it.
intention
You're not going to
was
manifest
a
it.
word that like, you know, then I probably wouldn't use the word like intention, because like intentions are in my breath and then I'm in tension. But if I like started like, then maybe I do a thumbs up on Facebook. Like
That, but yes, and of course it's supported with the likes. So there's likes even. So like, you know, there's even likes, and like you want likes, so why not use like in your
and then
sentences?
like I'm going off the cliff with the crowd because we're all liking the same thing, and I'm even liking the fall as I go down.
But let's like look at this like, in the sense that I want to like become like a divine practitioner as a sentence. Well, if I'm speaking my words, and words are powerful, and my words are my intentions into actualization, then I'm not really speaking my word intention spell to become a divine practitioner. I'm speaking to become like a divine practitioner, you see? So I'm actually not speaking to become that. I'm speaking to become like that, which is not that, which means I'm not using my words to speak into actualization. I'm speaking to be like that thing. I would like to like become very successful. Well, why don't you just say I'm going to become successful, not like become successful? Because that's not actually becoming successful. That's not actually becoming free of your trauma or manifesting whatever. It's literally the like is handicapping the actualization.
Well
Or
said.
should we talk about sorry? Sorry, guys, I don't mean to. Sorry, talk about sorry, because you know I'm sorry. I don't want to do this for everyone. And sorry, just like talk about sorry, even though the root of sorry is sorrow. Okay. And everyone's throwing this around. Sorrow. Do you know what etymology is? Do you know that the root of your sound frequencies, our language has been infected, and we use these, we throw them around. They have a lower frequency, just like gossip. Gossip is a lower frequency of communication. And I was profoundly surprised in the path of the yogic sciences that gossip came up in the teachings and ancient teachings about gossip. You'd think, well, gossip in the spiritual teachings of yoga, and so funny. It just seems like such a human earthly thing, but it is. It's identified as this lower frequency form of communication because it's completely it is a complete idiocracy in and of itself, because when you speak about gossip, you're speaking about somebody in the past who doesn't exist anymore, because everything in the past doesn't exist, and every person moves forwards and changes and grows and is different. And so you're actually speaking about somebody who's not even real, who's a fictitious character, because whoever you're talking about, let's say it was from a week ago or a month ago, they're now a different person. And so now you're speaking about someone who doesn't exist in a negative way. It's like make-believe. You're talking about make-believe stuff. And it reflects that if you assume they're the same person you're gossiping about, ultimately, don't we do everything and speak about everything really how we experience things? So aren't you really reflective that you don't feel you have changed in a week or a month? To assume they're still the same person they were a week ago or a month ago reflects that you don't really believe that you're that much different, that you've changed that much, which is a deeper reflection of why would you ever assume that they would be that same person? Only because you feel on some level you haven't really changed much. So these are all corrosive aspects that we need to start identifying that they're compromising our humanity. They're compromising our tribal connectedness. And that's why I'm grateful for us to talk about it, because as we unlock the strama from the body, all these things start becoming more identifiable. You start seeing them where you couldn't see them before because you were in it. And I got it. Thank you. I saw it. Yeah. So let's actually get into some sharing, because sharing is caring. And I've been sharing so much because I have so much to share with you guys, because I love you guys so much. So, but I would love to have Shelby share and express some of the magic that they've been going through, and would love to just hear and receive, as it's just another reflection for all of us, and for Alex and for me and those that have gone through this work. We get to kind of relive our journey of rebirth through hearing about your journey, sharing through your magic words. So please share. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi. Well, I saw the movie because I follow Santos, and I probably watched the movie an embarrassing amount of times and told Ariel here about it a ton, and was super interested in learning about it, maybe someday being a practitioner, but also wanted to have it done myself. And saw Alex on one of your podcasts, and that's how we connected. And Alex has been here a week now, and it's been awesome. So anything you want to say?
Awesome is a great word for it. I had never heard of Micah or the modality, and she sent me the video, and I watched it and was very interested in learning more. And normally I study under my teachers for a good amount of time before making a large investment. And so it was a big step, but it felt right. And I have been so excited about what's been coming up after. It's been a great experience. Amazing.
So share some of, first of all, thank you both so much. It just warms my heart, because so many reasons. I don't even know how we made the movie. Honestly, I have 4 kids and produced like a major film and somehow released it. Nmrt here has been so magical in supporting the process, and yes, and so everyone's been playing such a beautiful role. And I know there's this own magic to, and first I want to commend you, and you're not alone. We made the trailer years ago, and I had someone that said, I wake up and watch the trailer for this film every day. I did it for an entire month because it caused this like release in me by watching other people release, and it had this powerful healing effect. And you might think I'm crazy, but I literally wake up every morning and just watch it, and it helps me move through stuff. And I mean, I cry. Besides being in this film, it still invokes emotion and release for me. It's a beautiful thing, and it shows how connected we are. So I fully honor that and acknowledge that you're not crazy, and it just means you're more connected to humanity and feeling. And so I know it's powerful to witness and have that effect, and then to get to be in the experience of it. How has it been to face your trauma and your strama and your stuff, and move through it and feel the kind of spaciousness and pocket of release that comes after in those integrations? Is there anything uniquely in your process, or any areas of those sequences that really were profound for you that you want to share anything about?
Um, I mean, just to put it simply, it really feels like a transformation, like a clearing, just like it's called, it's a release, and
Right.
it was much needed. And Alex has gone above and beyond for us, though. So I just want to thank him for that. And it's been a great time. And
He doesn't know another way, by the way.
yeah,
That's just
yeah, it's just been great. And we've learned so much this week. We've both written probably so many notes and have so much to go back on and study once he's gone. So we still have work to do.
I love that. That is amazing. I love note taking. It's I started homeschooling my kids, and it was the first thing they weren't teaching them in schools how to do. We had the first month was, this is how you take notes. How do you learn something if you don't take notes? And so I'm a big note taker, especially for things that matter to me. And I love that, because that is the focus. And Alex and I talk about it is, you know, if we give you a great dental cleaning as your dental hygienist, and we don't show you how to floss and brush really good. And I have to say, I had a dental cleaning recently and had an amazing dental hygienist, and I feel pretty confident with my dental skills, hygienic skills, but she gave me some tips that were epic, and I've been using them ever since. And they really helped. And even some of the just little flossing nuances that I've put into practice, and they're making such a profound difference. So even relating to our dental hygienic metaphor, I love that. And that's what we want to help you. The way that you're going to keep the stroma off from the deeper drains we do with this work is to heal and clean thyself, because you're accumulating every day. And so we can dump a large amounts of this stuff, but if you don't have a basic way to keep it up, to keep working on areas maybe that were hard for you, or challenging, like I'm sure the jaw, that's like the primal birth trauma. You know, everybody, when we come through the birth canal, we clench down. That's what babies intuitively do, so that the jaw doesn't dislocate through the birth canal. So that becomes the go-to clencher. And so you stub your toe when you're a kid, you clench this. Somebody is mean to you, you might clench this. It just becomes the punching bag of the mind. And so it's a very emotional and powerful rite of passage that we kind of start the whole series with, right? It's very mental and cerebral. And then kind of from there, it's kind of downhill for a minute, right? It's kind of like the Mount Everest initially, where you're like, wow. I try to tell patients, listen, I promise you it's going to be anything's less than the jaw. So the first series with this work is very cerebral. It's very mental, because so much. And Alex, isn't it interesting with the second, third, and fourth points of the 9 points of the jaw sequence? I really point out to people how much, when you get headaches and things, you think of it's from your head, but so much of your jaw has muscles that are going up into your skull. And so as you clench, it's not just your jaw that you're getting tension from. It actually goes and creates hypertension in the skull, which actually is a big source for different headaches that you can get, tension headaches and things that people have. So opening the jaw even assists in decompressing the skull and the head itself. And yet we don't know a lot of this, because people don't explain it. I mean, I know for you too, probably in school for body work, I went through anatomy physiology. I was like, how did any of us graduate and not know this stuff? Seriously, it just seems pretty basic to know what your gallbladder does, to know like literally what your liver or kidneys do. And I feel like there's not a lot put into institutionalized education on this. And most people know more about what their carburetor does maybe than their gallbladder. And that's very telling, folks. That's why the last 2 years have been such a great deception for so many and gotten them into a fear state, is they're not very confident with how this thing works, you know, and basics like the concept of modern virology even. And you know, I want to talk so much about this, and I'm talking about on the show tomorrow, but the 3 pillars of modern virology are, if you learn more about science, they're absurd. You know, it's observing an actual a iris from a cellular culture you can cultivate, looking at it under a microscope and identifying it, and then running a genetic sequence on it. Okay. And none of those things were ever done for this iris, just your eye, YouTube, just talking about the eye, the iris, for the last 2 years with this thing. And none of it has been done for a good majority of them that we've seen through history, not to mention that Louis Pasteur himself admitted on his deathbed that germ theory was completely false and it was all about terrain theory. So, but none of us are educated enough to know this because we've been chemically dumbed down and toxified, genetically messed with already. And so we have a lot less intelligent people on the planet, and the intelligent people there are still getting bombarded with chemical toxification. And so it's a sad state we're in. And so again, one of the most rebellious punk rock things you could do is get educated on the knowledge and wisdom of your body and heal it and learn how to heal it yourself. And so I love hearing Alex teaching and sharing with you and you guys taking notes, because that's where you're going to make more change. And when you see Alex or myself or another Nmrt practitioner, when you're working on yourselves and you're feeling really good about the areas you're healing, you should be coming into the next series that you're doing going, wow, I can't wait to work on my knees this time. I've really been working on them. And like, they were really hard last time, but man, I've been doing my own work on these knees. And like, I think we're going to get a lot done in this series. And that's where we want you to be at, because we want you to not come in like the dentist's office and go, yeah, I think this is going to be a really rough session cleaning these for you. I have not been flossing and brushing and really just taking, it's nice coming into those dental sessions being like, yo, good luck trying to find any plaque and tartar up in here. I've been flossing and brushing and I'm so confident with my dental hygiene. And it's beautiful when the dental hygienist is like, you're right. You did a great job. I mean, I can find a little bit here and work on this area right here. And that is the progressive dental sessions we want to have, right? Alex, hands up.
Thank you, teacher.
I'm telling myself,
First things first, I appreciate, Micah, how you're a fantastic drunk dental patient. And then secondly, how you're an even better warrior expression of an Nmrt patient who's like, you're ready, man, football. Like,
I am the ultimate Nmrt patient. It's really true. Yeah.
But I'm curious, Ariel, any more thoughts, feelings, expressions from your session and that really stood out to you?
Oh, it's been fascinating. And there's been many incidences already that have shown me how much that has done for me. And I mean, it's just like moment after moment that I'm catching things that I was missing or I was working on and hadn't linked together quite yet. I've been kind of stuck recently, and I woke up Saturday and cleaned my garage like for the first time in my life. I think that's usually my husband's, he does that. And I just keep moving and it's just been fascinating. It's just been like light bulb after light bulb in a way that I'm so excited to learn more and to go forward and just to see what happens next.
Are both Shelby, you and Ariel, all right if I speak towards some of the things that occurred and just like give you shout outs?
Yes. Yeah.
So everybody that's on the show, preliminary, just hands to you guys, just high fives all around. You could be anywhere right now. I appreciate you for being here right now, tuning in and present with some really beautiful information that's being shared and being present for your lives, showing up for your friends and family. I mean, just way to go, mad appreciation, and whatever's happening, may it settle and may you rise in really good accord. Moving on, Micah, Shelby and Ariel, met them earlier this week for the first time. In person, that is. We've become fast friends, and to see their transformations, as Ariel said, moment by moment. In the moment, to see where there was any difficulty in the bottom. Okay, with Ariel on one leg, it's difficult. Oh, bam. And then getting it on the next sequence even more and seeing her warrior nature, her voice come forward. seeing the amount of adjustments that Shelby went through, like some that were so visceral, somatic, and then one more that it surprised me more than her.
Yeah.
Walking away from the table because the amount of chi that got off gas blew me away. Hence, I walked away. I know I'm funny. Thank you. And to see Shelby's face, I mean, taking a before and after picture, you'd see someone who is, yes, gorgeous, yes, strong, yes, beautified, but there's a seriousness that's stuck. And then through her opening, you see this sense of teenage wonder that, and it's like night and day. You see the strength reemerge. You see the breath and expand. And I could go on and on and on about these things. And I'm just astounded by their commitment to themselves, because that's what this is. It's not me doing it. It's not Micah doing it. It's not Dr. Harhari. It's not Kellen. It's not It's not any person. It is, as I step back, let the divine flow through. And then depending on the sex, how they either surrender or embrace, and then open themselves, the field of vulnerability, transparency, trust. And what occurs is just story. It is legendary, and it is a landmark, a hallmark for your remembrance to continue to move forward in your best accord.
Yeah. Origin stories. That's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
A couple of things I just want to reflect on. Number one, you're not alone in cleaning spaces from cleaning your space. It's like you clean this garage, which is actually not a garage. So then you learn, oh, wait, this is a temple and I need to clean my temple. That's why temples, if you notice, there's something called seva in temples and gurdwaras, and it's where people that stay in the temples, they all are assigned a task to clean the temple for the day. They help with this, they sweep the floors, because cleanliness is close to godliness. And so temples especially have this thing with keeping the spaces clean. In fact, if we dove deeper into the non-physical side, which we need to start learning more about energetic parasites, and that there's a fifth dimensional realm where there's both progressive and regressive consciousness, which means there's non-physical entities that are both positive and negative, and they respond to spaces too. Guess what? Negative parasitic entities love dirty spaces. They love dust. They love dirt balls. They love little dead bugs in the corners of the rooms, all that stuff. It has a stagnant energy and they like it. You know what? They hate clean spaces. It doesn't feel good. It has a brighter energy to it. So when you clean this temple space, you brighten this temple space. And then, of course, externally, you want to start cleaning other spaces because they are an externalized manifestation of you. In fact, they only got dirty because this thing got dirty. And naturally, you maybe weren't even noticing it until this got clean. And then you looked around and you were like, okay. And I just did a deep cleaning of this whole sound office studio and just redid it all. And I've been putting it off. And gosh, as soon as I started, and that's the thing I want to say with your body and cleaning this temple, if you can just get started, it's just like working out. If you can you get that first exercise going, you're like, all right, shit, now I got to do another one. I'm starting to feel good. The endorphins are going, the dopamine is kicking in. And it's the same with the Kundalini practices and breath work. If I can wake myself up and just do one breath technique, then I'm on my way. And my body will be like, all right, here we go. Another one up. Here we go. Okay. Hour and a half later, deep into the Kundalini and activated set. My whole energy feels activated and amazing. And I'm charged through the day. So the other thing I just want to touch base on is about the organic facelifts. I just want to give context for some of the beautiful things that Alex said in regards to, I see patients, and by the way, it made me want to do an organic facelift on myself, and I'm going to because, it was a full-on day, and I woke up super early this morning. I see patients that come through, self-practitioners that come through, and they're familiar to me, but then they're not familiar because I'm like, I know you, but wait, why's your face looks off to me. And what's funny is after these organic facelifts, I'll look at their face and I'm like, there you are. it was you before, but you were holding all this stuff that wasn't you, and there's your face. And it's beautiful when they see that and they are like, oh my gosh, what is it? Or their family sees it, or their friends are like, bitch, what did you just get some work done? What did you do? Because they're thinking it's something superficial you did with some kind of like, you know, external, you know, a medieval staple your face up like this so you look like you're riding a roller coaster all the time. You know, that's you don't have to do that. You know, you don't have to deaden the nerves in your face to get rid of the wrinkles. You don't need to inject cattle poison into your lips. You actually need to just stretch the muscle, because the micro expression for anger is doing this. We call it butthole mouth or anus mouth. And it's usually because you have a potty mouth anyways, and you're pouting all the time. And by the way, micro expressions, you do them for a millisecond before you do your fake smile. So let me give an example. And they're really quick, okay? They're really quick. And all of us program them in. So when we go through your face, guess what? We're digging out the expressions that you consciously outwardly do, and we're digging out those sneaky little micro expressions that you don't realize it. Like a frown, like a. And so they're really, there's actually people that read these micro expressions to show when people are lying. There was a whole show about it with Tim Roth that was really well done, where he would read people's micro expressions. And what's weird was, in between the commercial breaks, they would show actual people like Bill Clinton or somebody saying, I did not have sex with this woman. And it showed his face when he said that. And it showed the micro expressions that were for being dishonest or lying. And so my point is, you log all these expressions in your face, and they got to be cleared, because eventually you start programming them all into your face, and you start carrying them in your face. And that's why you see people like Robert De Niro, and he just look at his face. His whole face looks like he's trying to poop all the time, because he's holding all of the expressions in his face like this, right? Like, look at his face. This is what doesn't his face look like this, right? Or even like this kind of a face like this that you see with The Rock, or they're programming all these areas. So once we clear this and we release it, and then we lift the muscles of your face, because remember, gravity's also pulling everything down. And so when gravity's pulling down, it's also pulling the skin off the muscles of your face and the muscles down. So when we lift it and set it, not only does it stimulate collagen production, so the face tightens and lifts on its own, which is amazing. And everyone's about collagen production anyways, right? Except for we take artificial collagen and stuff like that. But the muscles, when you stretch them out, even take your 2 fingers, relax, bite down just gently and relax it, and you stretch it. I like to do this for 12 seconds. 13 seconds even. All right, so after I do this, I'm just stretching from here. I'm just breathing, stretching. Now, by the way, sometimes if you do this and you do it really right, you might want, it's best with 2 fingers so you can get the control right there. Lick your lips, by the way, so you don't rip your lips. You lick them first and then stretch it. Now I'm relaxing. So you might notice as you do this, oh, your brow's frowning. Guess what? That's another micro expression exposing itself that's tied to your angry butthole mouth. Okay. So once you stretch this, now watch this. Now I'm going to just softly, I know I look weird. I'm going to softly pull this off. Okay. Now the space I feel in my mouth. Do you see more volume in my lips? That's because what happens when you tighten your mouth over time, your mouth tightens in. And that's why a lot of the old people that you see, they don't have lips anymore, because their lips tighten in like this. And so all these little muscles, if you look at an anatomy chart for the face, they're all pulling and tightening, and gravity is pulling them down. So when we lift, and it's not just the muscles, the eyes and the eye sockets get pulled down over time, and it actually puts a bend on the optic nerve in the back of the eye, which causes a blocking of blood flow and fluid to the eyes themselves. So what do? I take my two pistoles, my guns. I put my 2 fingers right at the edge of the cheek, and I just lift oh, that feels so good. And I do another one right here, lift the eyes in the socket, and I just lift the eye in the socket. Now you don't want to slam the fingers in, you plant them on the tissue, and as you pull up, you'll notice they just kind of stop right as it lifts the eye a little bit. Boom and boom. And now The color's brighter. My eyes feel clearer. My eyes feel set back in the sockets more. And what's fun when we go through this in the organic facelift is we'll do one of your eyes and have you compare it to the other one. And we do everything. We'll lift one, as you guys saw, in experience, we'll lift one side of the cheek and have you compare it. And that helps the mind. The body already knows it needs this. That helps the mind to differentiate and go, oh my gosh, how is one side of my face hanging down like this? And this other side is sitting so high on my skull. It feels so weird and different. And by the end of it, hopefully your face is so relaxed. You're like, oh my God, you guys don't make me smile. Don't make me fucking smile. It feels so good for my whole face to just be relaxed for the first time. I'm not doing all these different expressions because your face just wants to lay at rest. Because so much of the time when we talk, we're over expressing, and that's all this glitchy memory we've programmed in. I watch my face as I'm doing this. I'm seeing a bunch of it. I'm kind of taking my own notes, being like, okay, I have to work on these and this one. Doing that a lot.
Something else I want to share about what you're doing.
Yeah.
So when you get at Micah's level, when you get at the level of a mom, like Shelby and Ariel both are, and just another shout out to them as I share this story. As we're doing the work, one of them is there and we're doing it in tandem too, learning as we do the work. But, you know, they have two beautiful kids and both have stellar husbands. So there's been a movement around the space helping to orchestrate all these different elements and variables so the person can have their best experience. And it's really cool what Nmrt does as a life form, as a program, as an entity, as it really helps energize people into their best. Even if they've never even received the work, being around it in the same way being around a tea ceremony induces a state of calm. So there's this where everybody starts to function their best. And it was amazing to see them and their kiddos go through their own learning process and even acting really, really well.
Right.
So to you, Micah, where you're doing this stuff as you're doing it, I can work on my face when you get at your level, at the level of master, when by exclaiming what you're talking about, you can also heal thyself as you're showcasing something. Right. So while one thing is happening, how many different things can you do behind the scenes? So my finger's here and I can do this. And if I'm really present, I can also do work on my shoulder through my finger. So Mike is able, while doing this stuff, he's actually deprogramming his face and unwinding any trauma throughout it by showcasing Robert with the stuff and poop mouth.
Yeah, you're calling it out. You're calling out because that's the other thing is, and by the way, like I am literally not special in that regard. I am a practitioner because, by the way, all of you, we're changing the name of this. When you get on the table and you start unlocking and you rebirth yourself and you start working on yourself, you're not a patient anymore. That's what differentiates you. You are a self-practitioner. We are all practitioners on this call. You're a practitioner, whether or not you realize that you're a practitioner, because no one's going to heal you besides you. Neuromuscular therapy activates you to heal yourself. In fact, Alex and I are really just assisting you. And you notice it, you guys, because I can reference this with you. You remember the jaw where he'd be holding these 2 points and you have to pull your own jaw open? You're responsible for pulling that open. If you don't do that, the technique doesn't get done. We're just holding these points for you. We're really assisting you when you're doing your shoulder and we're holding this point. You have to bring it up and rotate it and open up that socket. If you don't do that, the technique doesn't get done. That's also why this work is powerful, because you are in charge. You have to make that change. You have to complete the technique. It's different than just lying on the table and we're just going to do this stuff on you and then you're going to feel better and healed. That's not how this works. A lot of it, it's put onto you. Okay, guess what? We're doing this next. You got to turn your neck and inhale and exhale this breath back and stretch the levators in the neck or in the spine. You're going to take this deep breath and then we're going to open the spine. If you don't take that deep breath and let the erectors and the back muscles relax off the spine, we're not going to get this technique done. And you're not going to get the best results. So every time you go through this work, you're going to get better and better at doing it. And that's why the self-treatment stuff is so amazing, because you're going to get better and better at doing this on yourself. And that's why there is a self-treatment system, a whole pattern like we did on you, that you do on yourself. And we are working on filming a 13 video series that will be released on our online education platform for Matrix Body Mechanics, where you could just watch the one video how to do your arms, or you could get all 13 videos on how to do it on yourself. But just learning how to anchor into the body, go side to side and up and down, making that cross movement like a sewing machine. I'm anchoring in, I'm moving it up and down in a cross pattern, then I'm releasing and anchoring in again, side to side, up and down, release, anchor, side to side, up and down. You can do this all over your body, and you don't have to know the pattern. It's head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. We're going to do a children's song actually for neuromuscular therapy. And I think this is the kind of stuff that should be taught to children in school, because they're alienated again to touch. Touch is uncomfortable on some level, or alienated already so early for children. And yet they're bombarding us with the creepy sex education programs and institutionalized education. So you notice in all those creepy sex ed programs for children in institutionalized education, there's nothing really about, they don't identify medicine touch at all. It's all about, it goes right from like familial touch to like intimacy touch. So they completely cross over anything to do with touch for healing or contact. Isn't that interesting? They are trying to sexualize our children, but they're not even including the aspects of healing with contact and touch. They're completely bypassing over to intimacy around sexuality and touch. So they are literally programming children to be blind to the concept of contact through just normal healing, palpation. It would be like, completely jumping over, just not teaching your kids how to brush their teeth. Same thing in floss, and like, just here's how you eat food and desserts. You know what I mean? Like they'd be like drinking water, okay, and food and desserts, and nothing to do with the cleaning of the mouth and oral hygiene. And we're so confused why the children today all have cavities and no teeth anymore, because their teeth are rotted out. No, well, you didn't teach them how to clean the mouth. We didn't teach how to clean the body. And they don't want you to, because they know that you will be a byproduct of the suffering and the trauma, the fear that you got bombarded with in the society. You are a byproduct of that if you're holding it. And if you don't think those in control are divine alchemists and know how the psychophysical paradigm of the body works, then you haven't watched Netflix lately. Because I'll tell you what, they know how television works. They know you go in an alpha brainwave state. They know how to condition and program you. They know it all. They know how to use keywords to program your consciousness. Let's just look at the phrase, don't talk to strangers. You want to alienate people to not be a tribe in a community, make them think that people you don't know could just be some crazy people. Not, this is my tribe. Everyone is part of an Ohana. And that's one of the beautiful things, again, that they haven't been able to colonize or indoctrinate out of the culture here in Hawaii, which is beautiful. And, was very familiar to me because I come from, the original hippie generation, not the millennial, whatever the hell that is, that they call themselves hippies now in this generation. And by the way, that's why, if they try to knock on me in general, oh, he's some hippie, or I hate hippies today. Okay. And I am the child of the hippie generation, because you're not hippies. Okay. You're not real hippies. Hippies stood for something different that you don't. They had more of the sense of tribe. I grew up with aunties and uncles in Michigan that weren't my aunties and uncles, because we had that. They returned to the tribe. Unfortunately, they just lost all that when they started to have kids and get older, and then all the conservative and indoctrinated stuff came back in, and a lot of the hippies lost that spirit of the revolution, or they got into drugs and they got disconnected from what the point was of what that last consciousness burst was through the 60s. The one before that was the 1900s. We've had a few of these. They've always been interrupted by wars. They've been interrupted by sociological psyops. And we're in one now. We're in another consciousness push. And look at what they're trying to do. They're trying to push the wars. They're trying to literally indoctrinate and push all of the movements of, I know we're going over a little bit. So just because we're in it and we're in flow and it's worth it, and it's Sunday, and when one or more are gathered in the divine's name, we we're in it. So, and I have space for it if you guys do. So, I don't want to rush our transition out. Alex, like, is there anything else you want to share in regards to like even what we're talking about now and just how much, I know that it's a lot to learn about everything in this matrix that has, been put in place to disempower and disconnect us. But I just want you all to know that like the way that you pull yourself out is you got to pull it out of you. And it's alienating how much of this stuff has gotten into us, this indoctrination to how far we are from our divinity, and us just seeing ourselves in this very dumbed down or mortal way, and not in the true state of the divinity of what we are. But we got it. No one else is going to come back to that place besides us. We have to remember on our own. God is not going to just shine down from the heavens and say, remember how dope you are and how magical you are. It's not, you have to discover that. You have to. Now, they'll tell you when you're laying on that table and you're releasing all the strama and the gunk that you start identifying as not you, and you're feeling these deep, expansive pockets of bliss and freedom from all that stuff. I'm sure both of these ladies will share and tell you, you get a beautiful glimpse of that divinity again. I saw it yesterday with the apprentice I have here, who I'm training, Jedi Joseph. He was in such a, and you know what? And I'm sure you ladies will also agree. There were some of those integrations where you were kind of torn between that expansive space and the monkey mind coming in, and trying to run in your head and think about stuff and affect you from being in that deep stillness space when you're feeling all the space. And that happens too. And that progressively lessens the more you start savoring and exploring into this work and how powerful it is. But that's the thing, the monkey mind gets triggered. You'd think that when you start going into this more peaceful, expansive state, the monkey mind would be like, oh, okay, this is great. Let's do this. It doesn't. It wants to survive in you. You see, as you start getting rid of it, it's trying to survive. So sometimes you're going to agitate that mental mindedness, and it almost catches you off guard. You're like, wait, I'm doing things to calm and bring my center and peace and all of this beautiful bliss. Why isn't the monkey mind going to support this? No, it wants to survive, and you're getting rid of it. So it's literally trying to stay alive in you. It's the same that happens with meditation. If you start going into your breath, and a really simple one is you inhale for 10, hold for 10, exhale for 10, right? You're going into this breath. You'd think, oh, the mind's just going to willfully settle. It doesn't happen. The mind like kicks up its thoughts. It starts bombarding you going, oh, what are we going to eat for tomorrow for lunch? What did you think about today? And it starts bombarding you more. And so anticipating that to know, I'm suffocating you. That's what's happening. You're suffocating the monkey mind. And so it's trying to live. It's almost because everything wants to live. Even the shadowy parts, even the mental parts, even the sinful strama in you is like a fractal of your consciousness, and it wants to stay in you, it wants to live still. And so you have to realize that it should never be here. So I'm sorry, we didn't have a good run. Okay. Can't say I'll miss you. And I'm going to dissolve you out of existence because you were never supposed to be here. So how about you're welcome, I let you exist for even a little while. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye, Strama. Bye-bye, monkey mind. I'm going to go into what is my truth, what is where I always should have been. Return from the deviation of my divinity back to this peaceful space. And a big part of how it manipulates you is it comes in your own voice in your head. And everyone thinks because you hear something in here that it's yours and you should listen to it. It's the same with empathy, right? You hear thoughts in your head and instantly you think of, oh, I'm hearing something, I should give that some merit. So I want you all to use these techniques that I do. Number one, use your balsamic cosmic reduction. Okay, everything can be cosmically, balsamically reduced. You know what balsamic reduction is as a chef? It's where we take balsamic vinegar and we reduce it down to this yummy caramely sauce that we drip over delicious food. Okay, so we're going to use a cosmic balsamic reduction of love or fear. Every thought that comes into your transistor radio, you should be able to instantly reduce to, is this love or fear? And if it's fear, because it's easy, it can go love or fear, look away from it. In your mind's eye, you can feel that thought coming in as it is. Instead of listening to it, go, no, No, I don't want to hear that one. No, there's nothing of love or production for me in that thought form. And that's the thing, is you need to learn that this thing is a TV. It's like a TV. Isn't it cool when you learn you can mute the commercials? Isn't that a cool thing? Mute. So start muting the thoughts that are the commercials, because the only reason you're listening to them is you didn't realize you had a commercial broadcast that runs through this thing too. And by the way, there's actually technology out there where they can put thoughts in your head. No joke. I could show you the patents on it. So you need to start learning how to mute anyways, because this is a war of the spirit and the mind. So learn to mute. I got you, brother. I see you. Yes. Learn to mute those thoughts. You have the power. You got to start learning to take back control of this transistor radio. It's the same with empaths. We learn we can feel these gross, dark feelings, and it's almost like a stinky smell because you can smell it. You smell that. Oh, that's gross. Don't smell those stinky smells. Just because you can smell something stinky, don't smell it. It can be super toxic for you. So don't listen to those thoughts because you can listen to them. Start refining the thought garden, okay? And realize that there are positive thoughts. And by the way, like we talked about, there are energetic parasites, and they can follow you around and put unconscious thoughts in. You are a transistor radio. This is a psychic antenna system. And the more that you get the strama out, the clearer this will be to discern with that. But there's always kind of a transition process with it. And part of that's going to be as you're filtering out all the strama, because the first series you do is detoxifying and disarming. We're disarming all the strama, and we're detoxifying the memories, the feelings, the emotions that are coming out. And that drain, which you ladies are in, you're in the drain right now. It doesn't just happen when you get off the table. Alex and I will both tell you, this is different than other work. When the session is over, when the series is over and you get off the table, the actual treatment begins, which is different than other systems where, okay, you're on the table, we do the treatment, and now the treatment's over and that's it. This is a different thing. Stop that, crickets. So this is a different thing. When you stop, we're running an activating system where your inner physician starts treating you, and it fully kicks in once the series is done and you get off the table. That's when your real treatment begins, and the inner physician is working in you. So there's all kinds of things you can do. Like we said, you can keep working on yourself to keep flushing the spots of the body that you need to. You can get into water, whether it's the ocean or a cold bath or a jacuzzi. There's so many. You can take good nutrients. We call them the Fab Five: lysine, proline, glucosamine sulfate, MSM, and silica. Emery will probably throw them into the chat for you guys. Those are the 5 foundational nutrients that rebuild healthy cell tissue. Because remember, we just knocked down this tattered temple, and we just gave the architectural plans for the glorious temple that this thing is. But if you don't have the raw materials, it's kind of like, here's your state-of-the-art plans for this amazing temple, and here's some straw and mud, because that's what you're nutritionally putting in your body. You want to have the glass, the granite, the marble, the stainless steel to build this beautiful, the limestone to build this beautiful temple. And that's what these 5, what we call the Fab Five is: lysine, proline, sister amino acids. They help with healthy epidermal and dermal tissue. Glucosamine sulfate, MSM, muscles, ligament, bone, and silica is the carrier for it. All this stuff used to be in the food, but because of the commercial farming, it all got depleted. So when you take this Fab Five, it takes about 5 days, guys. You'll never stop taking it after that. It's just extra to all of the awesome nutrients you should be putting in your body. It just makes sure that you're getting these foundational elements for the rebuilding of this awesome temple space. And as you rebuild it, the first layer we get through, which Alex took you guys through, is stripping away the armor, because we all get this neurochemical defensive armor. We collect it over time because no one taught us we needed to release it as we go. And so as we disarmor you, and Alex, you were describing how they were going through some of these warrior processes with some parts, and then the warrior would come in, and that's all the disarmoring process. And from there, we got a big detox and drain that's coming. And then any series you do after that, we've gotten the armor off. We're now stripping into deeper layers. And that's where a lot more of the trauma and memory is going to be. That's why we call it the core work. We're stripping layers down to your core. And I don't know how many core layers I've had. I don't think there is a limit, because you're always reaccumulating as you go, but each one gets more progressively magical. more enjoyable, and you get to be more involved because you're not dealing with releasing the inflammation anymore. You're getting to like go deeper into these techniques. And instead of Alex or I doing your shoulder sequence and you being like, is this done yet? You will finish it and you go, yo, can we do that shoulder sequence again? I feel like my technique was off and I really want to get this. I want to set that shoulder. So you become more of, like I said, the self-practitioner and more of a badass in your mechanical agenda to fix this divine vessel, because we get the mind-body paradigm static out of the way. So part of that is you do have homework. You have the thought process homework, because now sometimes you're draining in memories and thought forms for weeks after. Alex will tell you as we've gone through this, I think a week later, I would have a huge memory of something trauma that happened to me that I had to deal with. There was some compromise, some component, and it catches you off guard because you're like, whoa, didn't I do that series like a week ago? Yeah, but your body's moving this stuff as it moves it. It's filtering it as it filters it. And all of that stuff becomes less and less as you go. It just does. Anything to add to that, Alex? I know, rapid fire truth on this stuff. It's because I was just so deep in it with this awesome apprentice yesterday, and he had such a just a powerful detox and journey, and his integrations were so deep. And it is powerful for the apprentices we work with because they're already so called to this path, and so their integrations, Alex, are so, you know, they're like you, bro. They're so deeply looking at the pieces, which is why it's so beautiful to see. And you see, wow, you're going to become a practitioner of this work. And by the way, ladies, I do feel some practitioner energy with y'all, and I tend to get a little bell ring when I see potential practitioners. In fact, pretty much every Jedi I'm looking at on here, I'm feeling yeah, brother, I'm feeling and that's the thing, is all of you can and will be a self-practitioner of this work for yourselves. And as you go through a beautiful transformation with it, it's hard to not feel called to help others with this work, even if it's just working on your kids and your family. And it's a beautiful thing if you are parents to go through this rebirthing of your sins, your traumas, because your kids get to watch you change. They get to watch you evolve and shift from one state of yourself to a higher state. And it's honestly the greatest reference they'll have, that they could change themselves or transform themselves if they fall into a slump or they're stuck in a trauma. Oh, I watched my mom or my dad, they were in a real thing, and then they just totally changed into this other place. As I was growing up from like 10 to 15, they just became this whole other magical person. You know, my dad quit drinking soda and lost 150 pounds and started working out. And it was a cool thing. It was a mile mark that my dad did this, and I watched him totally. And I never expected that for him. I accepted he was going to be drinking Coca-Colas and doing, and it was significant. And it's just kind of a deconstructed version of that perspective for you, that kids remember when their parents go through transformational change. So as parents, we have a profound obligation to live through example and release our trauma and step into our, empowered and divine process. So yeah, anything to add, Alex?
Yeah, I do.
I figured.
What this work brings forth, deeper opportunity to be more here, more now. Interestingly enough, the breath only functions here and now. So when we're thinking is exactly where we are not breathing. Some would say exchange thinking for breathing. Yes, and what Micah's talking about is trauma in the body. And just because this is my physical body, don't mean there's trauma right here when my neck's been craned right here, or my arm's been up here, and now that my arm's here, there's still neural residue up here. But say where you're not breathing is exactly where you're thinking. Because if your microcosmic orbit is functioning in syncopation, in rhythm with exactly where you are, you're in bliss. Everything's here. Interestingly enough, too, when you're totally here and now, you don't age. And then to the degree at which you are here and now is to the degree you are spotting aging, to where you're partially aging. So as we widen our circuitry and our bioelectric vehicle turns online, any dips into dimness, dullness, or poorness are usually less and less. And we have the opportunity to grab a fly by its wings because we are so present with the of existence and the gong. So we're present with both layers of that, the micro moment and the eternal. So it's really quite a pleasure. And I want to give some gratitude. Brother Raphael knew Richie. He went through the work back in April and has just received so much, is just a stellar light of presence, of listening, above and beyond more of what I could say. Shelby and Ariel know how of high regard I hold you. And the cool thing again about this work, is I tangent for one moment, is we do this work with Ohana, with family. And it's really cool. We meet people and we develop these connections. So as I travel around the world, currently in Texas, you can email me at mr.anderson1@gmail.com. And my website, it's again going through a change, is going to be live here in July. I'm going to be spending about 3 weeks with Micah come the middle of July. And so right now my phone number is 435-659-6904, or my email, which I said before, is good ways to get in contact with me as I'm traveling around the world through these next 3 years on this walkabout. And it's really cool to be creating a network of net worth. Again, the axis of the cross, the network of net worth. So where is our stabilization? And then who do we meet along the path, however we want to word that. So in the yantra, or the sacred geometry, is something I as a practitioner, or someone else as a self-practitioner, can hold as you're doing these sequences. So then you're programming geometry into your being, and then aligning your temple contemplation. You contemplate. Templar, the movement in the temple. Remember, it is in the language. So break apart what you say as you say. Am I listening to myself? Going forward, we have Jordan, we have Jared, we have my mama, staying, all the people, Jesse, who was there. All these people have received such amazing level of their own articulation of their hardware and software. So it's really cool when you get to meet family and do these techniques, these practices, and meet up as the Ohana doing sadhana, showing up for the way forward. So as Micah spoke about, with any calamities, eruptions, both natural or man-made, that occur, we have this network of, yo, Raphael, this bad thing happened. Can you get over here? Yeah, I got you. Or Ariel, I'm flying out. Do you have a place to stay? And we have these ability to connect because we're worth so much more than money. And we share value and worth with each other. And that is one of the most beautiful things, is value and worth will blast past any poorness that anyone can bring up. So I applaud everybody here. Thank you for spending the time. I cherish you. Bless, bless, bless.
And we are part of a tribe. That's the thing. When you go through this rebirth process, we are bonded through it, because it is not an easy rite of passage. When we all go through facing our trauma, it brings a beautiful connectedness. And also what's interesting is when you go through this work, to become a practitioner, the prerequisite is to get your spring cleaning done and at least one core layer done. And why? Well, because in order to take people through this, you want to go through it yourself, don't you? You got stuff to clear. And also you're going to be a reference point for others you're taking through it, that they can feel when they're in the heart of their trauma, their intensity. They can look at you and you can hold that presence that I know. I've been
Unless
in it.
you've gone through it, how can you deliver it?
I've been with you, brother, sister. You can see I'm in it. I'm with you. And there's another side of this, and it's called freedom on the other side of what you're going.
That was part of their prayer, and they're embodying it. They can share so much on that, and they already have.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's a beautiful thing for any patient that becomes self-practitioner and does the Nmrt. You already have, even if you did a spring cleaning, you're already halfway towards the prerequisite to even learn to do this work on other people, which is beautiful because it makes it like any person really, as they go through the rebirth, it's like some practitioners that they just know they want to do this. They see it as, all right, I got to get my prerequisite done. I got to get this spring cleaning in the core. For anyone who's done this work because they just feel called to it, you already are 2 steps ahead of practitioners who want to learn this and know they just have to take care of the things they need to take care of to learn it. And so it's a beautiful thing that because you're already in the tribe, and there is a beautiful thing about being in this tribe because it's a tribe of authenticity, because we are a small fraction of the population that's actually dug out the homogenization, the indoctrination, and all the stuff in between that's not truly us. And that's why we feel a more authentic presence and connection with each other. And it's a beautiful thing. And when you do the apprenticeship programs, we're just bonded for like, talk about a powerful way to bond together, and Alex is a beautiful reflection of that. Kellen is a beautiful reflection of that. Naughty puppy wolf here is a beautiful reflection. So much of the practitioners are just they're our tribe through and through, even if they take the program and they choose not to do the work out on the people, they just keep the techniques and they do it on themselves. They practice. It's just invaluable. And we're excited to see this tribe and network grow. Alex has shared the ways that you guys can reach out to him. Obviously, you can check us out at www.matrixbodymechanics.com, matrixbodymechanics@gmail, I think, or Anne-Marie is it's our handle as well. You can go to the education page and check out the program and the content in it. We have one coming up in July. I think there's still a couple spots left. And then we have an amazing program coming up in September. Alex and I will be at the July one, and I'm just so excited, just the food. And that's the other thing we're doing, all of these ancient sciences of the rishis, the yogic sciences that can be incorporated into any spiritual or religious practice that you have. They are not in any way a threat. They are only an accoutrement, an additive to preparing the body and the mind to be able to pray more clearly and worship Christ or Allah or whoever you want to worship. They are a science of working on and healing the body. They're not the belief systems you might have identified with them. And so we learn these breath techniques. We go through a Shaolin Qigong techniques, as well as this living food technology. You get to explore all of those things in these programs to integrate into and incorporate into your lifestyle. So that is something beautiful coming up. Remember, we have the release premiere is going to be coming out again. I'm so excited to see, because again, we hit just under around 40,000 people in less than 4 weeks, and they took our film down. Just imagine once it stays up now, how broadly it's going to broadcast and how many other practitioners and also people feel called just to go through this rebirthing it's going to reach. It's really exciting for us to re-release that. And then we have the film coming up in the fall, which will actually just come just after the program that we have, which is in September 11th, which by the way is actually Jesus's real birthday, is September 11th, just so you know, which is also why they created the largest mass psychosis event of trauma, if you think about that, on that day, to taint that day to the collective consciousness. So we got to take back that day. So it felt like a good day to train all these practitioners to wake up to activating the Christed template. That's why we're doing it on September 11th in the sacred lands of Malawa'a. Super beautiful. And we're bringing these programs here because this is the place that I cultivated the system. This land, the air, the water here is sacred, and it's a beautiful place for you to retreat to dive into this work in a more full immersion experience. We tried a training where we just did one like in Los Angeles. We just had everyone show up and come and this and that, and they just didn't show up for class the same way. It's like we need to pull you and extract you out of your environment and immerse you in this environment. And that's, you know, it's cool. After class, Alex will tell you, remember at Big Island, like everyone was working on each other after class at night, after we ate and stuff. If people wanted to do more work or explore the quantum technology, they had access to all of it. Or if they just wanted to rest and sleep or go outside and explore. And, you know, where we're doing the program in July, we're right next to the foothills of Makaleha. So you have all this amazing fresh water to go jump into, and fresh water, even though these fresh springs to go explore. It's literally like right next to where our house is, and just have a beautiful just plot of sacred land that we're going to dive into. And just we're so excited for what's to come in that regard. So just honored to be a part of this process. For those of you interested in more of the information and intelligence and news that we don't talk about here on YuckTube, you can find that on our Telegram channel. It's at all caps MBMT, at all caps MBMT. It's Matrix Body Mechanics Truth Channel. And then we have our show on Rumble that is every Monday. What's our time for Central Standard? Is it 3 to 5, 4 to 6? 4 to 6 Central Standard Time, and that's on Rumble. And I'll tell you what, it's pretty power packed. You know, I think I showed you guys just kind of like a snippet of, like, this was literally last week's show right here. So, and we go through everything, you know, we go through ultimately the information war that's out there, our own divinity, and little things like ether, which is an ever-present field that connects all things, everything. Nobody even knows about it. How can a good portion of what we work on releasing out of your body in the strama comes off in what we call etheric burnoff. So, or that time is not linear, it's simultaneous. Everything, including past, present, and future, they're all happening right now. So all of this we get into, and then of course, happiness chemicals, oxytocin, serotonin, and imprints from the sun. And then of course, oh, by the way, when we talked about the water and the iron oxide, here's what I was talking about. These are your local water pipes for your for the water running through a lot of the cities. So that iron oxide and false medicines and weird scientism and you name it. So, you know, all of this is part of it's part of kind of a like the Warrior Intel show that we do. And here's our Matrix Body Mechanics channel, where we have a lot of stuff, including release that is ultimately, you know, getting censored on places like Facebook. This was one of them. And the film itself. So we're just grateful to be able to broadcast and bring this all to you. And it's, you know, it's my service. I don't get anything. I don't have any sponsors. I get nothing from doing this except for the gratification that I'm playing my role that I can to help bring the truth to humanity, to those that are willing to listen. So on that note, I'm so grateful for each and every one of you tuning into the broadcast. Thanks, everybody. Did anyone else, by the way, I, for some reason, wasn't clear that all you guys had some version of this work from Alex and could have shared your own reflections on it. So I actually thought it was just these two sweet sisters here. So I didn't even know any of that. So I feel almost as if I wanted to hear more of you guys and your feedback. So if anyone wants to say anything and share your reflections, please do. And I'd love to have you guys back to talk about it, because it's good we talk about our individual experiences about this to help people to feel a broader experience of what it is for us to release. Anybody? Feel free. I just want to give you the space.
Hi. There were a couple things I wanted to chime in on. Some of the things at the beginning, just with your talk about water. I practice a lot of, like you could say rebirthing, doing cold plunges in the river. But the way that I process is water holds memory. And because most of our body is water, a lot of that emotion in the ocean, of energy in motion. That's so being able to do a cold plunge, we go and we do breath work and we ground in the forest. We do breath work and we connect to so the earth, breath, air, water when we plunge, fire, spirit. And so when we breathe and we open up that energy in the pineal gland, and your third eye opens and your Merkaba fields spin, and you bring your awareness into that energy, your sins that you're struggling with, and you bring those out into your field. And it's like you're bringing this up and go, okay, this is what I want to cleanse myself. This is the sin that I want to cleanse myself of in this moment. And then when you go into the water and you let the water take that memory of the emotions that you're holding and let that pull down the river. And then when you come out, you go and you do the integration, and you do the work of, okay, I don't want to go back into that old pattern again. I want to progress forward. Oh, sorry, one second. And then this is just a personal understanding of Christ. I've tried to connect a lot to Christ consciousness and try to understand the process of humanity and how it deals with emotions. And I don't know if this is a little off topic or not, but I view Christ as a fourth density incarnation, the heart chakra, the vibration of the earth. And so I see Christ as like the divine feminine. So in source, the masculine and the feminine are one, and this divine feminine came down and just expressed himself through just love, compassion, and just that is the answer, is just love. And that's how you heal. And so when he died for our sins, he absorbed all of this negativity that we perceive on ourselves because of what we've gone through, and we shame ourselves and guilt ourselves, and we hold on to all of this stuff. And so he absorbed all of this energy and was trying to transmute this energy through love. But there was no way to return this energy to us for us to be able to have our own experience. And so I view Buddha as a fifth density incarnation, where he spoke his truth and he tried to understand, which is the masculine is the feminine is just love, and the masculine desires to understand something so he can accept it and perceive it as, oh, this is why this happened. And then they're able to feel compassion, a lot more compassion and love for that. And so you have this fifth density who spent his life trying to understand the balance of all the energy that he had absorbed in a previous life. And so he's sitting there, he's spending his life trying to balance this. And then you have this sixth density being, which is I refer to him as Thoth, which is funny. You also mentioned bird is the word, and bird, Thoth has the head of a bird, and he deals with the third eye chakra, which is astral projection, intuitive, and telepathy, and how to communicate. And Thoth was supposed to be the first human that was able to astral project and leave this world, but take his physical body with him and be able to study how to communicate, how all of these different beings on different planets as well as Earth, how they communicate, and to be able to share that. And so through these three different beings, you have the one who absorbed all this energy and processed it through love. And then you have this next density that learned how to balance it through understanding with the feminine and masculine. And then you have this sixth density, which is now able to share information, which is technically through chaos. And because you have to experience that chaos to be able to evolve and grow and learn from these mistakes. And so we're in this period where everyone's experiencing all this chaos, but we also have the ability, because of these previous beings who have studied these practices and taught it to us, and we pull them from different religions, and that's how we try to understand our emotions. But that is how we connect and bring balance to that masculine and feminine, is through that chaos and having compassion and love and understanding, or love and light, because light is essentially like darkness or information, wisdom, to be able to understand the darkness. And so that was just something that I wanted to share, how I kind of perceive our ability now in this day and age to be able to process all of these things that have happened traumatically and kind of hold on to them generationally and be able to tune in, because once you tune into that third eye, you also tune into the spirit body. You're able to connect with your subconscious and really connect through like the veil of your past lives and be able to understand things that happened like to your parents and their parents and their parents, and understand that it's just been passed down to you, and you still have that ability now to be able to move all that through your subconscious.
Mm,
Anyways.
yeah. No, I'm glad you got to share, because I can feel now that you were holding that expression through the duration of the show. And
yeah, there was a lot. I wanted to like interject, but I'm like, oh, I don't want to interrupt. I don't know if I'm allowed to. I thought I'm not sure if I'm just supposed to sit and listen. Alex invited me, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but this is interesting. I would love to sit and listen. And so I'm
glad you did. I'm glad you got to express, and at the same time, it is gosh, it's something I want to dive deep into with you, because there are key components that that I feel really significantly relevant to identify about the Essene, about divine alchemy. And because all of us have the ability to become divine alchemists, Saint Germain was a divine alchemist, and all of us are given the technology, and the science behind it is you bring a piezoelectric charge up your spine, and you arc that charge through the right, then the left hemisphere, through the third and fourth ventricles in the brain and the pneumogastric nerve. So there's a whole anatomy to it that activates the secretions from both the pineal and the pituitary gland, and those two sacred secretions identified as the land of milk and honey, and also identified allegorically and metaphorically through the Bible as this benzodiazepine, melatonin, but then dimethyltryptamine release and activation of the inner eye that has the same rods and cones, then goes to the same place that your eyes are going, in the back of the skull, where we see each other. This is an alchemical mechanical process that any of us can achieve. The one difference I would say to acknowledge with Christ is that he was before Thoth in his existence, because Thoth existed as a centurion, supposedly. After Egypt and through several other civilizations did he live longer. But when creating this Christed process, it's a title. He was Jesus of Nazareth. He became the Christed through doing this. And I, in my study, have witnessed that he went to India. He learned the yogic sciences and came back, and he became Christed through this sacred alchemy process. But he chose to anchor his energy here and ascend into the non-physical, where others chose to stay here and work, like Saint Germain, like we could say Thoth did, and tried to help work with humanity to evolve. But I want to acknowledge, to me, he is the core first Jedi that actually took this divine sacred anointing process that all of them learned to do. And what happens is, when you activate that level of arcing, the Ark of the Covenant is arcing the electromagnetic field from the right and left hemispheres. You're arcing the covenant. That is the Ark of the Covenant. All these things we thought were external treasures, they're actually the treasures here. If you look at the brain, it literally is an arcing of hemispheres. When you stimulate both pain and pleasure, you are arcing the hemispheres of the brain. You're activating.
When you arc the hemispheres, well, the Yemmings in between glows.
The neocortex, frontal cortex, which is where your psychic ability lights up. And even in science, they say if you used even 12%, 10% of your brain, you could fly. And that's because when you think, energy releases from your brain. And when energy releases to such a capacity, the brain learns how to manipulate energy into matter. You become the Neo Jedi. And the neat thing is, each one of you, when you learn to do this, you're going to develop a different way you do it than I do, because we're all different. And that's where creativity comes into play. So really, each of those that became divine alchemists would have their own way of doing it. Saint Germain learned how to alchemize lead into gold, and he would manifest crystals because he could take energy and materialize it into physical matter. He was on record producing massive amounts of wealth through energetically, alchemically transmuting materials. That's pretty cool. Thoth had his own ways of doing this. To me, Christ did he was the first to ascend to the non-physical, but anchored energy here to come back. What happens when you drop off your laundry somewhere? You got to pick it up later. You get a ticket for it, right? And so the energy's been anchored for a return for this consciousness to be dawned upon humanity at the time when we need it, at the dawning of a new age, from the Kali Yuga to the Sat Yuga, from the Iron Yuga to the Bronze Yuga, and we're in it. And it is the time now. Now, what's really weird is in many prophecies, they talk about that Christ was already born to a human family. He's about 44 years old right now. And that the Dajjal, or the Antichrist, is also a human being. And what's weird about these prophecies, it talks about not just some ascended being from the sky. If you think about Christ's story, and this is why I want to acknowledge he was an embodiment of the feminine and masculine, but he also was a gangster ass masculine. Okay. He went into those marketplaces and he tossed their things and he said, you're not gonna hustle money in these temples of worship, right? I mean, he got gangster. He embodied the masculine, and he was a leader. He led as well, but he also balanced the heart with this connection to the feminine in Mary Magdalene. And there's many records of him having his own genetic bloodline, that after he was crucified. And by the way, I don't know how many of you know, do you know what happened to all of his disciples? They were like crazy gangster shit. I could play for you right now what happened to them. Crucified upside down, sawed in half, skin ripped off. There was only one of them that actually lived to old age, just so you know. So she took off with the bloodline genetics. And what we're witnessing right now is a war between the Canaanite bloodlines and the Adamic bloodlines, the Christ bloodline genetics and the Luciferian bloodline genetics, through the elites of the world battling. This is a big thing that's been going on, and they've been hiding out the Christed bloodline genetic codes, but all of us hold that. All of us hold the divinity of the imprint and the ability to become Christed. Christ was just the first one to take it to that next level. That's why in the Hindu culture, when you see Babaji, you see Sri Yukteswar, you see these high up yogi Jedis, Christ is right there. You know that, right? He's in their pictures with he's in the Sikh ones too, you know. For the Sikhs, he's up there, and all the Kundalini masters, because they don't see a cultural separation. They just see who has learned the Christed process, because they've learned that it's something that's alchemical and physiological and anatomical. It's not just metaphysical and religious and spiritual and theoretical or theosophical. So that's what we have to start breaking down the barriers around, because it's part of the deception. So in that, I want to dive deeper. We could do a whole show on that. I just want to acknowledge, thank you for expressing yourself. Anyone else want to say anything just before we wrap? And I'm going to go take another Jedi Apprentice through an amazing course series. And that's my Sunday. And I hope all of you have a blessed Sunday, and work on in your own way on these Christed processes and your breath and your presence, because it's true. You can't think and breathe at the same time. It's actually one of the best ways we help patients get through this work on the table. If you're ever reacting to some trauma when we're doing this neuromuscular work, tune into your breath. You'll be breathless. And when you're breathless, what? You're dead. You're a corpse, right? You don't have any breath. So, you know, it's the same with your thoughts in your mind when you're wrestling with the traumas or the thoughts in your mind. If you go into your breath, you can't think and breathe. So when you get present with your breath, it makes your mind freak out more, but just keep in the breath. That's why sometimes a count helps. Or another one, imagine beautiful flower pictures in your mind's eye while you're inhaling, holding, and exhaling. Because the breath is what we need. The breath is the life force for rebirthing. And since we're all going through that in this great tribulation, and most of us breathe erratically through our nose or our mouth like this. When you breathe through your nose, through your throat, it's the Ujjayi breath that causes you to pull slower and regulate the heart rate. So you can't pull erratically. Listen. It's way harder to do when you open that valve. So just look at the physiological mechanics of opening this valve, breathing through the nose, through the throat. It causes you to regulate the heart, the circulation. It slows you down. So you see these movies where the shit's going down, and how are people breathing? They're running. You should be breathing like this when the shit's going down. So practice your breathing, because the shit is going to be going down. Mark my words, with the great tribulation we're coming upon, whether you believe in it or not. And here's the thing, even though we're waking up, the collective has fallen to deception and darkness. They just have. We can see it in the massive promotional wave to just kill the innocent through technology. You can call it what you want to, but that's what abortion is. It's using technology to destroy the innocent in the womb. Because if you really want to talk about it, your irresponsibility, both men and women, with sexuality, get a vasectomy, get a nouveau ring. If you're going to use sexuality and not be responsible with it past the conception of life, it's not your body or choice anymore. It's a different genetic living creature inside of you. Your choice ended when you choose to use sexual energy irresponsibly, for both men and women. So that's what I'm saying. You want to use sexual energy irresponsibly, get a vasectomy, get a nouveau ring. Outside of that, past using sexuality irresponsibly, you have irresponsibly desecrated the sacred act of divine union in general. And if you kill the innocent, you're crossing divine law, equal to worshiping false gods. And you know what? You can believe me or not, but I can tell you one thing about God. God is a God of divine law and free will. And if you take your free will that God gave you, the greatest gift you were given, and you cross divine law, God's not punishing you with what comes after that. You did that to you. End of story. God is a loving God. God gave you the free will to do all kinds of things here. Just some basics. You don't kill the innocent. You don't harm the innocent. Do unto others. It's pretty basic. You're not really infringed upon in your freedom. Exactly. Yep. All of those, bro, all of those. See, he knows them. So they're pretty basic, and they're, you don't harm anyone, make right on things. They're the same as natural law. We don't even need the governing manipulative laws of the controllers that they think we do. When we are in alignment with natural law, you become self-governing. We will return to this. We're in the process of. So in that regard, we should all practice this. We practice it with the breath. We practice it with the awareness. But the masses are more lost. And unfortunately, we're all part of the same collective. So we're going to be in a world where the masses are going to have to go through what they've created around it. And we will stay connected to the light. We will have blessings through the process, but we're all still going to be tested. And it'll be magical, but your breath is the key. So practice with the breath first and foremost, and practice with the cross through your body and your own cleaning and brushing, body brushing, if you will, before you go to sleep at night. Kick into plow pose, maybe do some breath work and stretch. Make it fun. Make it fun. We got to start changing what's fun for us to productive things that help us collectively move towards our Jedi idols. Ultimately, if you're going to idolize anyone, idolize the Jedis, okay? The Saint Germains, the Christ Jedi, who's basically achieved the process we talked about physiologically, moving this piezoelectric charge up, activating to arc through the hemispheres and turning the brain on. We can all do this, you guys. We just have to practice. The system, the technology, which technically we should have been practicing this since we were little kids. And so we're playing a little bit of a catch-up game right now. But these spiritual sciences are so powerful, they're designed to help you catch up, which is awesome. So, and we use things like the quantum technologies to help with that. I just got a new thing. Check this out. It works with terahertz. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Sounds like a hair dryer, but it has a terahertz. It's got this laser, you can see. It changes the mutation in the cells, and it actually helps the cells detox. It runs terahertz frequencies through the cells. There's so many cool things that you have access to empower and heal yourself these days. Whereas, and Alex will tell you, it was a lot harder to get quantum technology. You'd have to go through all these hoops to get it from out of country because the FDA wouldn't approve it. So now, honestly, they don't really care because they know the masses aren't waking up to it. So they're like, oh, let them have their quantum tech. You know what I mean? So it's easier to get access to this stuff. We have a lot of it on Matrix Body Mechanics as well on the website. We have a whole little tech shop. You can check out the different stuff that's in there, and it's all there for your empowerment. So with that, I appreciate each and every Jedi on this call today. Again, gathered in the name of the divine and in the divine Jedis before us. You know what? I guarantee you, they're happy about the fact that even this many of us came together. We had a magic 7 too, by the way, sacred 7 number. And I'm so grateful for each and every one of you because it matters. Each of us can go off and help awaken 100 people from there. And from there, 100 others can awaken 100,000 and so on. It spreads just like supposedly a iris. So on that note, excited to see you guys next week. Release Sundays live. I'm not sure who our guest or what we're doing. I think we're doing a tonic alchemy class, right? That's what we're doing next week. We're doing some Divine Tonic Alchemy. Cool. So we're going to do Divine Tonic Alchemy, how to make your own mac nut milk, and herbal roots tonic as an alternative to coffee. Or we do something called cold presso, where we take a higher concentrated coffee and put it through water raw. And then you have to drink a little bit of it. Acts as a digestive cleanser. It doesn't mess with your nervous system the same way. So again, all Divine Alchemy, just put through different a different lens, a different view, but ultimately for your embodiment and empowerment. So with that, we'll see whoever's going to tune in tomorrow for Monday, Matrix Body Mechanics Live Mondays. It's going to be a fun show, catching up from a week we missed. And yeah, I look forward to seeing each and every one of you every week, if possible, if you could tune in. And I'm just so grateful that you held your presence and awareness here with us. Out of all the things you could do, choosing to ultimately put yourselves first in this awakening. With that, aloha all and Sat Nam. I appreciate you guys. Thanks, Alex, for coming on and bringing this epic crew of Jedis. Truly so grateful. You guys are all an inspiration to me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Seriously, I'm looking at each one of you as I look, by the way. I know it doesn't feel like it. There, now I'm looking. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And yeah, I look forward to building off this. If any of you have curiosity about the program, I mean, I love you all as Jedis. Feel free to take it to the next level. Anne-Marie and I, we're happy to, she's great in communication, filling in pieces and details and stuff, and what comes with the journey of taking this this next level with the Christed process through this work. Anyways, out of all the paths we can reach this sacred anointing from. So on that, aloha, everybody. Sat Nam.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Aloha.
Aloha, friends.